Hey, everybody. Happy New Year here shortly. Hope you're all doing well. 3 hours away to the end of 2021. Thank you for joining us.
Good to see everybody. Hope everyone's having fun this evening.
You know what, Alan, before we get too far into this, I just want to throw out one little interesting tidbit. As my wife and I were eating our dinner, we had on Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve with Ryan Seacrest for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I got to say, I am once again reminded how thankful I am for the music that I listen to and have kind of shaped my entire life around. And because modern music is lost, confused, terrible. I don't know. I mean, that sounds like a typical metalhead way of, but really, I try even, I like some pop music, from the 80s. I'm a kid of the 70s and 80s, and back the 80s bands could craft some good pop songs, but
Very much so.
nowadays it's all the fucking same. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. And for anybody to sit here and turn up their nose at metal, I get it. If you don't like the sound or the aesthetic, it's going to repel you, but there's a lot more heart, I think, coming from that as opposed to what's being pushed upon the masses these days. Holy shit.
Marty. Haters gonna hate.
I know, get off my lawn, but cheers to metal in 2021. And again,
Cheers to metal.
Cheers to metal. People this is a bad year for metal. I mean, every year it seems like I see that, and it never really is. Every year is usually a good year for metal. I mean, I don't know. I guess this depends on your mood and your mindset and what you're listening to. And
there's always going to be some, big name bands putting something out. There's always going to be some new bands that come up that surprise you. If you dig around, you're always going to find some really cool albums that you like from the year. Now, there may be years where some of the big releases you anticipate disappoint you. And so I can understand, from that mentality, some people may feel a certain year is kind of like, I didn't like this year as much because, and if you dig into it, often it's because, well, I was really hyped for these three albums, and then all three of them turned out to be kind of mediocre. And that could definitely, make you feel like it was sort of a dud year. But if you get past those, there's something else out there. There's always something else out there that you haven't heard that if you dig around, look at reviews, get some recommendations from other folks, you can find some cool stuff that you just have never heard of. Yeah, even in the past couple of days, folks have been posting some comments on some of my videos over at Let's Talk Metal and recommending, hey, if you didn't hear this one from this year, you should go check it out. And I've been listening to some of them, and some of them are awesome. It's like, oh shit, I need to buy this. The Wraith album, Morgul Blade sounds really cool on first listen.
I've heard several people mentioning that Morgul Blade. Yeah,
it's pretty interesting. Yep. The Wraith album sounded really great on first impression. So there's always something out there that folks can go check out. If you don't like the ones you've heard so far, that kind of sucks when you're waiting for something to come out and you finally get it and you feel like, I don't know about that. But hey, you move past it and you go look for the next one because there's always another good album out there you can discover.
I'm shocked too that, I mean, back in the day, not back in the day, but when I was writing for a couple different, my own zine and Maniacs and doing other stuff, I was very much entrenched in trying to stay current with what was new going on. Granted, it was my job to, inform people of new things coming out, but I was a seeker. I wanted to hear all these bands, and I've been watching people's year-end lists on the YouTube channels, pretty much blown away at how much I have not heard this year and how many labels I've never heard of that are putting out some killer stuff. Like Simon, I'm about the 3/4 of the way through his video, and I don't know if I've heard any of the bands that he's even talked about. And I'm just like, I'm this whole new wave of old school death metal stuff. I like some of it, but I think a lot of it's kind of the same, but there's so much I haven't even heard. It's kind of a generalized statement saying that when there's so much I have not heard. Oh, and then someone here did say, which is worth repeating, Nebulous Prowler, cheers to metal and to Betty White, who passed away this morning, 99 years old.
Yeah, on New Year's Eve, 2 weeks short of her 100th birthday.
I know. And she always struck me as a funny, classy person, very talented. And, the old guard's getting old and moving on, man.
Yeah, I agreed on all counts. She was always very funny, very able to laugh at herself and make fun of herself, but
Yep.
also very witty and could be a little raunchy every now and then when it
Which I respect
was
that. I
called
think
for.
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she covered the bases really well.
She's not your typical Hollywood starlet, where they all kind of like their careers end. Like, look at Elizabeth Taylor; her career ended, and she's just kind of a trophy at that point, or
Yeah.
a remnant of the past. Where Betty White stayed current all the way up to
Hmm.
almost the end of her life, which is amazing.
Yeah, she did, and she did a lot of good work for charities. Was involved like in like a lot of humane society animal stuff. Not the crazy fringe stuff, but just take care of your pets kind of stuff, and treat animals well, and other things like that. So yeah, using her platform to putting it to good use.
So Ian says there's been some great releases this year. Suffering Hour and Rye are probably my favorites. Haven't heard of either of those. What's up, Devin? How's it going? Christopher Barker, shout out to Mr. Allen there.
Hey, good to see you, Devin. Good to see Chris
Uh,
Barker. Michael Hudson's in the chat again tonight. Good to see
Chris,
Michael there.
Happy New
Lots of
Year.
folks.
Um, Ben, I have opposite problem. Way too much quality metal. Good problem to have.
Exactly.
Michael Hudson being a smartass. Have you guys heard the latest Halloween? Couple times.
Halloween?
Halloween? No, not Halloween. Halloween.
Wait, Halloween, the Italian band Halloween or the Michigan band Halloween?
Detroit represent.
Exact heavy metal horror show.
Mm-hmm. But hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. There's 38 of you here. We really appreciate it. A lot of people chiming in already of stuff they've heard this year and what they like. I have not done a year-end list because I have not heard enough really to even compile a list that's been new. Which, if I sat down and thought about it, that might not be true. But how about you, Alan? Are you doing a year-end list?
I did. I posted a video a couple of days ago. I didn't try to rank albums or anything.
Oh, you did? I totally missed it.
That's
Holy
okay.
shit!
It's only been up a couple of days, but
Right on.
yeah, I dug around and looked. I had heard about 24 new releases from 2021, and by now actually it's a few higher than that because I've been playing some stuff this week. But so I just went through and picked a few of what were my personal favorites. I think I picked 5 from the year. Talked about them a little bit. Actually played clips of them for a little bit. So I got some copyright claims, no copyright strikes, so all seems to be good with that.
Right on.
But yeah, I just wanted to highlight, some of the albums I liked the most from the year, making no claim that they're, the best album from the year or anything. Because, like we've mentioned, there's so much stuff out there we haven't even heard yet. I just heard Wraith today. Based on my first impression, that's going to be a fantastic album. I would have talked about more, but I'm only hearing it today on the last day of the year.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I did put out a video if folks are interested in seeing what some of my favorite albums from the year were. There were some really good ones this year. There's been lots of cool stuff to check out, and lots that I couldn't mention because I didn't want to go on and on and on, But yeah, there's great stuff out there.
I agree with All Choked Up. That new Frozen Soul is really good. It's very bolt throwery. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That's one I have not got around to hearing. Was going to it several times, and it was always like the last thing deleted from my cart, trying to get it back under control where my wallet wasn't screaming at me.
New Impaled Nazarene was pretty good, says Hail Metal Forever, and I've heard a couple tracks. It sounds really good. Unto Others, Strength of One. Strength is one of my favorites by CD Cult. Tons and tons of shit and we're missing out on here, but yeah, so this is kind of just talking about the year a little bit. We're going to get into what we've been spinning lately, the last month or so. It's been a while since we've done this. They're fun.
Yeah, it seems to come up about every 2 months or so for us, which is a good time to put stuff aside and get into a new batch of stuff for sure.
We didn't want to commit anybody to a stream tonight because, typically most people are out doing whatever with their families or whatever on New Year's. And
but yeah, we thought we did want to drop by and chat with folks for a bit. We will wrap up, it won't be a super long one tonight because we know folks will want to go check out the ball drop and ring their holiday bells, make out, do whatever, get drunk. So we'll let you all go long before the midnight hour rolls around. Fear not.
So why don't we go with you, Alan? What you been spinning? Oops.
Let's see.
Show us. Let's go back and forth a little bit here.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan. Let's see. I got a couple of vinyl things. A while back, went by one of my favorite local stores, and they've gotten some new metal stuff in. Picked up this, which I had never owned a real copy of before. Nuclear Assault's The Plague EP.
Nice.
Nice condition. It's a steam hammer press, so UK press, or sorry, Euro press.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a funny little EP. It's very much a tale of two sides. If you haven't heard this one by Nuclear Assault, the first side is a little weird because you start with an instrumental, Game Over. Nightmares, the second track, is perfectly fine, standard Nuclear Assault stuff. The third and last song, Butt Fuck, kind of, the title tells you what you need to know. This is going to be one of those kind of goofy, it shows off, the humorous side of thrash. There's nothing wrong with that, but it does mean that, the A side, you basically have one jokey song, one instrumental, and only one quote unquote real song. But side two is really strong. It's got Justice, which is a really good classic Nuclear Assault track. It's got The Plague, which is a little bit of a slower one in ways, but still okay. Yep. And it closes out with Cross of Iron, which is a real banger. So, side two is really, really solid classic Nuclear Assault stuff. Side A, it's not that it's bad. It's just with only 3 songs, it kind of stands out that there's not as much to sink your teeth into. But yeah, I had never had a real copy of this one. I remember seeing it, at Camelot stores back in the day, and it was always one of those like, oh, I wouldn't mind picking that up, but with only 6 songs, and it was always like $6.99. It's like, I can put those last few dollars of leftover lunch money to better use, I think. But so kind of cool to finally get a copy of The Plague.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yep.
I recently got one thing that was kind of cool released this year. This is a reissue. I got in on a little too late. I missed the vinyl of it. If anybody's got a spare copy rolling around they want to sell, hit me up. I think this is the 3rd album by Lord Weird Slough Feg, Traveler. I got the CD off of their website, and this album is another one of those 100% A++ riff albums. Maybe the best in their catalog, which is saying a lot because what is it? What's the second one?
The second one, Down Among the Dead Men.
Down Among the Dead Men, yeah. Then the first Twilight of the Idols, I believe, is the first one.
Something like that, yeah.
But this is so good. This is absolute riff perfection. The vocals are great. The songwriting is superb. I've been listening to the crap. This is one of their albums I've always had a burn of. Never had the real thing. Every time I go to pull a trigger on the CD, it's $1 million. Yeah. And the first was a self-titled, and then Twilight, says Michael Hudson. Thanks for that. Okay. But yeah, they repressed it this year on oh God, Dragon something or other. I can't read it. SPV in Europe. So I mean, yeah, this has it's definitely getting some bigger distribution, which is good. But this is a superb album. If you've never heard the Lord Weird Slough Feg, I would highly recommend you start with this one. You're not going to be disappointed. And if you like they've got a very unique character to them. If you like that character, there is nothing that's going to deter you from any of their releases, really. Some are better than others, but they've all got that line of quirkiness that's very appealing to me, and superb riff writers, songwriters, excellent, good stuff.
Yeah, that's a great one. And yeah, in my mind, there's no contest. It's their best album. It's a thematic album that tells a story, and it's just a perfect story for that band to tell. It's based, folks probably know this, but if not, it's based on an old tabletop role-playing game called Traveler that was meant to be the science fiction version of Dungeons and Dragons. It came out back in the late 70s or early 80s, not too long after D&D started to become a thing. And yet it was meant to be the outer space version of D&D. Never got as popular, of course. It fell by the wayside early on, but they do a good job of paying tribute to Traveler with all the different races being referenced and all the genetic manipulation stuff in the storyline. So yeah, it's a really fun listen throughout. If folks haven't heard them and they need a reference point, Marty, you and I were talking about this not long ago. You can definitely tell there was probably an influence from Broca's Helm on Lord Weird Sloth Fag, because they were from the same geographic area, and Broca's had that same very quirky, kind of unique style to their music. It's not, no, Lord Weird Sloth Fag albums, they do not sound exactly like a Broca's Helm album, but you can just tell they were going for that same kind of, very unique, kind of a little off the wall, but still very solid metal sounding in their songwriting.
Yep. Alan is up next.
All right. Next, I'll talk about not one, not two, but three things I've been listening to, because they kind of go together. I had wanted these for a long time, found them for what I thought was a reasonable price on Discogs, and so I just went ahead and finally pulled the trigger. We're talking early sci. We've got Ghastly Funeral Theater, we've got Hail Horror Hail, and Scenario 4 Dread Dreams. I've had all these on MP3s for ages. Hail Horror Hail in particular was one I always wanted back in the day and never could really track down. Cacophonous's distribution was terrible back in the 90s. They would advertise stuff. You'd hear about the band, you'd see them, think, hey, that's cool, I want to hear it. And God, you could not find the stuff anywhere. And again, the size stuff notoriously has had issues with getting reissues. So it hasn't been a real easy way to get solid copies of these. But yeah, this was a classic case of, well, before I go to bed, let's just poke around on Discogs for a few minutes. I'm sure I won't find anything. And 30 minutes later, yes, my credit card is weeping as I spend a pile of money buying 3 old size CDs. But really good. I think this was a really, really good period for Psy as well. They were getting all the experimental stuff mixed into the music, but the albums, still have very solid heavy metal frameworks that all these weird soundscapes and soundtrack kind of stuff are being bolted on top of. So yeah, they're all really good releases. I like this period of Psy's history quite a bit. So yeah, this was, I don't know, you can call it an early Christmas gift to myself to finally have real copies of the original CDs for those 3.
Awesome. I want to say shout out a couple people here. Rick, Happy New Year. Melanie,
hey,
Happy
Rick.
New Year. Happy New Year. Melanie, we're going to try to get you on sometime. I know you had a busy December, so
yes.
Let me know when you have an opening in your calendar.
Yep, we will get you worked in for sure.
All choked up. Happy New Year, Necro Gobbler. Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out for a little bit here on New Year's Eve. We do appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. Next up for me, this would have been, if I made a year-end list, this would have been on. This is 1914, Where Fear and Weapons Meet. This is a really... What's that?
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, I want to hear what you think about that, because other folks have recommended it to me.
I don't have their very, very first one, but I got the album before this. Obviously, another one of those bands that are very much steeped in World War One, events, history, all that stuff, and aesthetics. This, to me, this band, if you could, let's strip it down basic. If you combine modern hypocrisy with Bolt Thrower cuddling in a trench, I think that would kind of be their sound. But this is really, really great. The album cover pretty much sums up the album perfectly. Very, very dramatic, horrifying. I don't know. These guys are just really good. I haven't spun this a million times, but I've spun it enough to, it's a favorite for the year for sure. Kind of wish I got the wax on this too, but CD will have to suffice. It's really solid. Like, these guys are Ukrainian, I want to say. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I believe they're from the Ukraine.
Yeah, but, I don't know where they're from. I heard a few clips because it got a shout out on Banger TV, their monthly metal reviews, and it sounded interesting. And then other folks have been mentioning it a lot since then, but I have not haven't dived in. It's one I'll have to check out soon.
But yes, folks, check it out. Really good, strong, melodic, but very emotive death. I don't know if you want to call this death/black. I don't know. It's more of a middle ground leaning for sure. It's right up the middle, but very strong, powerful, amazing stuff. Alan.
All right. And in the chat, Simon just jumped in. He's wishing us a Happy New Year from the future because he's already in 2022.
He is, yes.
Yep. What have we got here next? Oh, okay. Well, here's one that you recommended for me, Marty, and picked it up and was glad I did. It was Immolation's Atonement. I've been playing this quite a bit on and off lately. Really, really good album. Immolation, I do not know their discography as well as I should. I know bits and pieces of it along the way. But yeah, this album, great sound quality to it. It's very dark, very heavy, but also very clear. It has a very good sound to it. And yeah, the music, at times, it's slow, but it's just very heavy. But again, you can hear everything very distinctly. It's not the least bit muddy or murky or anything. And it's just got very well written songs is what it boils down to. These are songs that they have catchy parts. You can remember distinct things from choruses and verse structures. The songs stand out very well. It's a really well put together album. I think it's a good example, of one of these older veteran bands, sort of showing newer bands. This is like, yes, you've got the aesthetics, you've got the general idea, but we're going to show you how you actually write the songs. Here's the blueprint you need to actually follow if you want to be still doing this 20, 30 years down the line like we are. So yeah, this was quality stuff. Thank you for the recommendation. I'm glad I picked it up on your word.
I'm glad you did, because that's a good one. They've always been consistent, but on that album, it seems to me like they altered their songwriting a little bit. It wasn't everything all at once hurled at you, all these weird, obtuse riffs and time signatures. There's like a lot of room for you to take a breath in the riffs on this album. There's a lot of space, which I think was a nice touch. It was a really subtle shift. It's still Immolation, but there's just a lot more. They're doing more with less, I thought. There's just more, and it gave the songs more impact. I don't know. I mean, they still piled it on when needed, but great album. The new one is coming out. Is coming soon by the sounds of it. Looking forward to it. I think that's going to be a tough one to beat, but they've been doing it for so long, they don't need to beat it. They just need to be themselves.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a band. That's an older band who I'll be working through a little bit more of their discography in 2022. All right, Marty, what you got next?
Next for me, I'm still going through a massive pile of CDs my friend S. Craig Zoller sent me, and last night I spun this twice because I was surprised how much I liked it. And it's a Solicitor with Spectral Devastation. It's very much,
but I don't know it.
It's very much in that traditional vein of traditional heavy metal revival, but this has got a lot more speed metal kick to it. It's raw and aggressive, and I wish it would focus. There we go. Raw and aggressive. Really good songwriting. They don't sound like anybody. I was very impressed by how vibrant and urgent the songwriting is. A lot of good leads, it's very much in the traditional heavy metal realm mixed with that speed metal, which gives it that edge, that crusty, fast edge. I really like this album. I'm surprised. I've been making piles of stuff to send to people, and I looked at the cover. I'm like, oh, this might probably be going to Alan. Then I spun it twice. I went, no, sorry, not this time. Good stuff.
Yeah, the cover, I mean, it does in a sense look a bit like, a very generic new wave of trad metal release, but those, you really got to spin those to find out. Some of them are mediocre, but there are some real gems in there. So cool.
Yeah, a couple people here have heard of it too. I've never heard of them. Frederick and Circus Lizard both say they dig it, or great band.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I haven't given it a chance. So I'm literally keeping a list as we go tonight. Things that I need, because this weekend we've actually got 2 quiet days before the little one goes back to school, and we have to start thinking about getting ready for spring semester stuff. So yeah, I can slap on the headphones and dial up to YouTube and check some stuff out for the next couple of days. And
awesome. Yep, good deal. All right.
Okay, Will, apparently I've been in a bit of a death metal mood because next on our stack, this is a band I'd been meaning to check out for a while and recently finally got some stuff ordered thanks to NWN. This is Humiliation, the Malaysian Humiliation, not the Indonesian one, with Battalion. I don't know which album it is in their discography, third, fourth, fifth, somewhere in the middle. But people had always described this to me as, a very good, bolt thrower imitation. And yes, it's a good bolt thrower imitation. It was described dead on. The vocals, maybe lean a little more raspy than just brutal. But these guys do an excellent job of just crushing it with the riffs. The riffs are airtight. They're leaden heavy. They get that riff, they latch onto it, and they just pummel you with it. Really good at that. If there's something that seems a little odd, and again, you're still getting used to these, they have two guitarists listed in the band, but there seems to be relatively little lead work in the songs. You get to that point where you're sort of expecting a little bit of soloing, and there is at times, but at other times there's not. And so it's kind of noticeable that neither guitarist is really jumping out there and shredding something off for a few minutes before you get the next verse started or head back into the chorus or whatever. So it's noticeable. I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's just a little strange that they're kind of light on the lead work, but they really kill it with the riffs. Really heavy, very catchy, really good at writing those riffs. So yeah, I'm enjoying the Humiliation Battalion so far.
I may have one or two of their CDs. The albums that I had, very much bolt thrower for sure. But I thought they were a little boring. I might, if I can find them, if I didn't send them on, I will send them to you.
Okay, sure. I only glanced over like the Metal Archives page. I noticed there were a couple of albums that seemed to have relatively low scores compared to others. I don't know why. NWN had this one, really cheap. So I was like, yes, I'm ordering stuff anyway. I will add that to the cart.
All right. I've shown this before, but I've been listening to it quite a bit. This is Troll with Troll Storm over Knitting You've. I don't know. I can't read very well in the dark here. One of my viewers sent this to me from Germany. Thanks again for that. This is a very good CD. One of the dudes from Dimmu Borgir's project, I think this was recently reissued on cassette by Dread Records along with the full length that followed it, which I think is a little bit more lavish with the synth work. This here is just really good in the pocket, mid-90s Norwegian black metal. Very well written, very good. It's short, so you can listen to it 2 or 3 times per trip in the car. Really did enjoy this one for sure. And I'll definitely check out their next album. Noodly keyboards don't bother me as much as they used to. So, but this is really good, really subtle synth work, really atmospheric, good in the pocket, 90s Norwegian black metal.
Yeah, that's a band that's been getting mentions here and there. So good on them. All right, let's see here. Oh, yeah, let's show this. This was my wife's Christmas present to me. So she's probably watching in the back of the house. Hi, sweetie. Love you. And really love her because, my Christmas present from her, the original leather cover, double LP set of Motorhead's No Remorse. So yeah, if folks haven't seen this before, Bronze Records did sort of a special version of it where the cover was printed on leather with the sort of shiny foil lettering on everything. And this copy is beautiful. Both albums have the original inner sleeves with the lyrics. Both albums are absolutely spotless on it. So not one that turns up very often, of course. There was a copy that had turned up at one of the local stores that advertised it probably a year or two ago. I think it was early in the pandemic. And by the time I got over to check it out, they had already, it was long gone. But this one turned up and she's just like, yep, there's your Christmas present. Just like, I love you.
Give the gift of Lemmy.
Obviously, it's a best of kind of thing, of course, but it
It's great.
really
It's a
does.
classic. It's a classic comp.
As best ofs go, yeah, I mean, it really is, still a defining part of their catalog. It's got everything you want from those early Bronze Era albums, and it has the four unique tracks, which are solid ones too. So really cool to have that. I've never had much Motorhead vinyl or any of their kind of cooler. I had one colored vinyl one years and years ago. It was about it, but so yeah, that's a pretty damn good Christmas present to get from your wife, I'd say.
That's very cool. Indeed. Absolutely. She knows what you like.
Indeed, I have no remorse about hooking up with her.
Next up for me is another one from the Zoller box. This I have on vinyl. The only thing I have by this band, English Death Wish with Demon Preacher. This is a reissue from
Oh, cool.
Dragonlance Productions. This might be the same label that put out the Slough Fag. I don't know for sure, but this is, other than the Annoying Symptom of the Universe by Black Sabbath cover plunked right in the center of this. It's a really good thrash album from England. I typically am so on English thrash. This fits in a good pocket for me. There's some Metallica isms on here, earlier Metallica isms, but they kind of have their own thing going on. There's another one. I don't know if this is the first or second. There's another one that has more of a scene of inside a dungeon. I've been meaning to get that. Haven't seen it around to pick it up yet, but I'll have it eventually. Very good band. This is a cool reissue. Cool to have on CD and vinyl. Very good.
Yeah, it is one of the better British thrash bands, and both the albums are pretty solid. I don't own physical copies of either, but I've had them both on MP3 for a long time, and yeah, they're both pretty solid.
Jurgen says it's their second record.
Okay, yep. Yeah, I tend to get them backwards, so I didn't want to jump in and say one way or the other.
Okay. Going to Alan.
All right. Well, I have also been listening to some British thrash lately. I picked up the reissue 3 CD set of Virus's first 3 albums. So this thing is called Scarred for Life. It comes in one of those old school double CD cases, but it has 3 discs in it. So yes, you get the Pray for War album, the Force Recon album, and the Lunacy album, all pictured there on the front. So this was a band I'd heard bits and pieces of all these albums over the years, and it was good enough that it kind of stuck in my mind. It wasn't good enough that I wanted to go paying, $40, $50, $60 a piece for original vinyls of them or anything like that. So, hey, Jurgen, glad you're joining us. But yeah, and it just happened, this got a reissue sometime in the later half of 2021. It was like, oh, hey, yeah, I'll gladly pay, $20 in shipping to get all 3 of them at once and check them out. Virus went through different changes on these albums. The first one, they had their roots as more of a punk band that then strayed into sort of, dirty, messy thrash metal. So they kind of followed a similar trajectory as Onslaught. And the Pray for War album is definitely my favorite of the 3 so far. It's got, it leans into sort of a sci-fi bolt thrower, Mad Max landscape for, all the lyrics are very much, future war, robots, Terminators, genetic, pandemics, all that kind of Mad Max post-apocalyptic stuff, which they do pretty well. The sound is a bit murky on that one. It's a bit messy, but it works quite well. They're good at it. It's catchy. It's pretty fun to crank up a little bit and just listen to. On Force Recon, they seem to have tried to clean up their sound a bit. That one I've only played a couple of times. And to be honest, now that one strikes me as a bit more boring. It's a bit more straightforward.
That's the one I have. I have that on vinyl, and I would agree with you. I've had it forever, and it never really blew me away.
Yeah, there's a decent booklet in here where they do talk to the main guy in the band for quite a bit about each album. And he even says, at this point, he's like, one thing was apparently people complained a lot about the first album sounded kind of sloppy and people wrote off as, oh, they don't really know how to play. Like, we know how to play just fine. We just are intentionally trying to sound, like we still have, sort of that, dirty punk raw vibe. So on Force Recon, it's almost like they made a conscious decision to try to sound clear, like, oh, here, look, we can play thrash metal in the vein of Metallica if we want to, which they can, but it's very much a second-rate kind of Metallica thing. It's not giving Master of Puppets a run for its money anytime soon. And Lunacy kind of follows the same trajectory. Again, a little cleaner sounding. Definitely, in that it's okay thrash, but second tier thrash. This was, a band I can see where they would have had, a good local following, a good cult following, but they were never going to conquer the world, especially that late in the game. As we've talked about, I've done a video about, thrash bands in the UK they were too late to the party to make a big impact for the most part. And in a way they didn't need to, because, with UK bands, they kind of went from, punk and new wave of British heavy metal straight into, grindcore and death metal. They kind of just skipped that phase in the trajectory of getting more and more extreme. Whereas other countries, Germany and the US and Canada, we all went through the thrash phase, getting to the death metal phase. And the UK just was like, thrash. We've got a few of those, but we're just going to go ahead straight into Carcass and Napalm Death and deal with that. So yeah, it's a cool collection. I'm glad I picked it up. But yeah, the first album is fun. The other two, I would say, are pretty average, at least on my impression so far.
Right on. Okay. Well, this is another thing I pre-ordered this year. Was pretty psyched to get it, and that is 30 years live anniversary with Gamma Ray.
Oh, cool.
This is a 2 CD set with a DVD, and they did a live stream during the pandemic when everything was shut down. They got a humongous stage, full light rig, maybe 10 people live in the studio with them watching, where they ripped through 30 years of Gamma Ray music. It's cool because it covers a broad range. Some of the track listing is a little questionable to me. I mean, it seems like it starts off kind of fast, a little more aggressive. In the end of the show, they really kind of dig into the slower, more melancholic tracks. But this is really cool. It's got the new guy, Frank Beck, on vocals, which when I heard that Kai brought another singer on to help him out, I was at this point, just kind of wishing Gamma Ray would be done. But hearing Frank in the live setting, he sounds a lot like Kai, to be completely honest. He does a great job. Their voices work well together. And this is also has Ralph Sheepers come on for a handful of songs, at least 4 songs. He crushes it. He sounds better than he did on those first 3 albums for sure. His voice has only gotten better over the years.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good. I've watched the DVD a good 4 or 5 times. It's really well produced. The band sounds amazing. They really do. There's no fuck ups. I'm sure there were some touch ups, post recording touch ups. There had to have been, but the thing that bugs me about this, and it's not anything that the band has done, the camera people. Like when there's a guitar solo that Henyo's playing, they got the camera on either the drummer or Kai. And then it basically the camera follows Kai around pretty much constantly, and whoever's singing, and then the drums. Everything else is kind of like Dirk, the bass player. He's on there once in a while. Henyo, when he's playing solos, quite often, if you see him at all, it's from a shot way in the back. They could have had a little bit better notes as to what camera needed to be on who for which songs. But other than that, that's a small complaint. This is really a well shot. They offered tickets for this. You pay for it online. Like Enslaved has done it. Emperor's done it. No, Emperor. Yeah, Emperor did do it with. They had Mortis on bass. Let's see what it's saying here. Kai is losing his voice. Yes, he is. Kai. I think Kai doesn't want to quit smoking. Yeah, he continues to smoke. Yeah, he says it's not the Jurgens. It's not the same with. Yeah, I thought Frank did a surprisingly good job. It made me say, okay, I could maybe get into a new Gamma if it happens. Yeah, probably the director's fault. But yeah, this is a cool collection. If you're a Gamma Ray fan, which I am, I'm a Kai fan. I'm a Halloween fan. There really isn't a whole lot of Gamma Ray that I dislike. I mean, even the first 3 albums, they were always the hardest for me to swallow. But the older I get, I'm starting to like them more. But this is a cool collection. Ralph Sheepers sounds great on this. Really good. It was cool to have him on there for sure.
That's cool. I have not heard that. And yeah, I know I sometimes crap on Ralph's vocals a bit, but he did get better over time. He sounded better in Gamma Ray than he did in his older band. What was it, Tyrant Pace?
Yep.
And he sounded much better in Primal Fear than he sounded in Gamma Ray. So it's good to hear that he's continued on that trajectory of getting better and better.
Very, very Halford-esque. If you're a Priest fan, you definitely see the parallels for sure.
Yeah, he was one of the finalists to replace Halford, of course, and the band, of course, went in a different direction with Ripper, which I think worked okay. Well, those albums may not be good, but I don't think it's any fault of Ripper's.
No.
I don't know that Ralph would have been any better or worse with the material. What do you think of Gamma Ray's future? Is there a future for Gamma Ray, or is it not really going to happen?
You know what? It's funny because when the new Halloween came out, I would every day search for new interviews because they did a lot of video interviews on YouTube with YouTube channels. I heard Viking and Kai say that Gamma Ray was probably kind of a done deal, and then I heard another interview with Kai saying that he was planning on doing another Gamma Ray album. So I don't even know if Kai knows. I think it seems like the interviewer that was interviewing him was really psyched on Gamma Ray. So Kai kind of said, "Oh yeah, it's not done. It's not done." And then other people, he's like, "Yeah, it's done." So I don't know. What is this? Michael Hudson says, "Man, Alan, you're tripping. Say what you will about the music on early Gamma Rays, but the vocals are insanely good."
A lot of folks like Ralph's vocals, and that's cool. Something about his voice just always irked me a little bit, and maybe it was just a combination of I'm not crazy about the music on those first 2 Gamma Ray albums, and then also not being a fan of his voice from his previous bands. It was 2 bad tastes that didn't go well together for me. They did start to sound better on the 3rd album. Insanity and Genius, the first half or so of that album is pretty solid, but I feel like it fell apart in the second half of the album. But that's a conversation for another time, perhaps.
Frederick Zunko says no future for Gamma Ray, and you know what? I at this point I see it as Kai's pet project, and I think he hates to see it go. But there's no way in hell that Gamma Ray is ever going to generate the numbers that the new Halloween has. And I think that Halloween, if they're ever allowed to play shows and get out and tour properly to capitalize on the popularity of this new album, there's really business-wise no reason other than for fun, because it is sad because Gamma Ray has great players. Have been long-standing members of that band that I'm sure are bummed. They understand, I'm sure Halloween is, a thing, but been a lot of years of some really killer albums, and I don't know. I don't really see a future for Gamma Ray though, to be completely honest. But what do I know? I don't know shit.
Yeah, I mean they certainly could, but it's hard to imagine. Not just because of the success, and the Halloween reunion. It's been a long time since there was any real new Gamma Ray material. That last album, Empire of
the Undead, yep.
It's been, what, 7 years?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, I don't have the Oracle pulled up at the moment, but it's been more than a minute since that album came out.
It really has. And let's see, Empire of the Undead was 2014.
Yeah, so as of in about 3 hours, we're looking at about 8 years since that album came out. And Gamma Ray seems to be one of those bands that's very much got in the habit of just, well, here's the live album, and here's a box set, and here's the B-sides box set, and here's another live album, and here's the 30th anniversary commemorative edition of something or other, and here's a live album, and they're putting stuff out, but it's it's kind of treading water. It's like they haven't moved forward with the band long before, Kiske and Kai were, talking about getting back together with their old mates.
Here's the problem. The last few, like Empire of the Undead, has 10 reviews on Metal Archive, 76% rating. The one before it, To the Metal, 9 reviews, 78% rating, which isn't bad. And I liked Empire of the Undead. At first, I wasn't in the mood for it, but after I listened to it more, the song Avalon, they start the album off with, it's great. It's a great fucking song. It's kind of like a Rebellion in Dreamland song, kind of a mid-paced, but it's really well written, strong harmonies.
I haven't heard that one forever, but To the Metal is a sort of mediocre, by Gamma Ray standards, it's mediocre.
Jurgen says the other members have the Unity. I never checked. I've never heard of it. I'll have to check it out.
Oh, I don't know that either.
All right,
I'm not surprised they've got other projects going on, but yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a little hard to see where Gamma Ray fits into the puzzle moving forward. I mean, you also have to keep in mind none of these guys are getting younger. They're all veteran musicians in the how many years do they want to continue just putting out live shows and working around Kai's Halloween schedule and stuff like that? It's hard to see where they fit in, which is a shame, but at the same time, I wouldn't be that surprised if by April we hear that Gamma Ray's got a new album in the works by the end of the year. It could very easily happen.
It's hard to say. I mean, the pandemic is, if anything, otherwise Halloween would have been on tour solid for this album. They would have. It's just the way it goes, especially with the numbers it was pulling down. So he wouldn't have had time. But now that there's a lot of idle hands going on, who knows? Who knows?
Hey, if Europe is locked down, well, might as well write another Gamma Ray album.
Might as well, yeah. Yeah, because there's so many songwriters in Halloween. It's it's hard to get a whole bunch of songs in on it.
Yeah. I mean, he doesn't have to write a whole Halloween album. He needs to write 2 or 3 songs for Halloween, and then all the others can be Gamma Ray material. Which, hey, if we get good albums from both bands moving forward, good for us.
Exactly.
Okay, so all right, time to talk about this one, and this is an album that several people whose opinions I respect greatly recommended quite a bit. The album got a bit of hype. I played a few tracks like, that shows some promise. Picked it up. You may or may not have been present. We had like a 1 a.m. Hell's Headbangers record buying splurge session when I bought this.
I'm sorry. I recommended this heavily to you.
And but it wasn't just you. Several other folks had really recommended this. And I've played it a lot. And I've got to be honest, this album does not resonate with me at this point. And there's going to be some folks in the chat that will heartily disagree and be surprised and disappointed. I'm sorry. I'm getting it out of the way so I can start fresh in 2022. I've played this a bunch, but I just don't get into Megaton Sword. I don't quite, it just will not click with me. And this is not a matter of I need to play it some more. This is a matter of I've played this thing 15 or 20 times, and I still walk away from it feeling like, well, I'm trying to like it, but if I'm being honest, I feel like it's rather average. It's not bad. But
Kellen says, "No, how dare you, sir?"
Kellen, I was kind of hoping you weren't going to watch tonight because I knew you would be disillusioned and you won't believe in anything anymore, and you're going to run away and start listening to Taylor Swift because I have disappointed you too greatly. But the band shows potential. It's not bad, but there are just several things about it that are not clicking. Yes, I know I'm going to take a grilling on this one, but it just doesn't work for me. Not yet, anyway.
I agree with you, Alan, says Roger. Hey, right
okay. On. Someone, I am not alone in the void here. Yes, now, Marty, I know you are quite fond of this album. It's been a big hit for you, which is cool. Absolutely. Do we want to talk this one for a few minutes, or do we just want to?
Oh, I'm fine to talk about it. I'm not going to argue for. I mean, you've put the time in at this point, and I can honestly say that I can agree. I can understand why you wouldn't like it. It's kind of like one of those deals with the vocals. It's like the King Diamond syndrome. Either you love it or you hate it. And the guy's got an obviously very unique vocal style. Um,
Yeah, he does.
I was,
And that doesn't bother me a ton. It's the vocals are not like a deal breaker. Neither is English is obviously not his first language, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say not his second language either. But that is not a deal breaker either. I've listened to plenty of European power metal over the years where their grasp of English is tenuous. It's noticeable that they're struggling a little bit to put words together, but it's not a deal breaker. But it's a thing, but not a terrible thing.
I was taking my bass player Chris home one night from practice, and I had it on. I was ranting and raving about it, and he's listening to it. He's like, "This is cool. It's different." He said, "Kind of reminds me of Deftones." I'm like, "What did you say?" I'm trying not to pop you in the mouth.
Everyone who's mad at me right now, go be mad at that guy, because that's fucked up.
But I really like, they're in the epic metal wheelhouse, and they're doing it without ripping off all the other epic metal bands that came before them. They're kind of doing their own thing with those very soulful, emotive vocals. I really like the guitar tone. I think it's a very sharp tone. I like the simplicity of the riffs. They use simplicity very well. They write some very good riffs. The soloing isn't the best. They almost need a lead guitar player. They need a shredder. I even watched some live stuff, and the solo guy, you could tell he's just not a very adept soloist, which, I understand. It's one of those things.
And that is, I'll jump in, sorry. But that is one problem with the album. When you're trying to play epic metal, you do need multiple points in songs to be epic. And part of that is the soloing. And this band doesn't have that right now.
No.
Whoever the guitar player is, look, I'm not trying to crap. You're really good as a rhythm player. But, you build to this kind of big chorus, and you want that to be followed up with some kind of, big, impactful solo. And this band they noticeably shy away from it. They slip right back into whatever their main riff is for the song.
And there's two guitar players in the band.
They're just like, solo right here. No, we're going to swerve around that solo thing and just kind of go back to the, here's the riff, here's another verse, here's the chorus. And that is something that hurts them, I think, that they need something there that can really, you're getting that big chorus, and then you need to have that big wow factor carry over into the solo, and it's not there. That is one of my gripes with the album.
And that would be a gripe of mine too, but I really enjoyed the songwriting, and they also have a mini album that came out before this one that's just as good. Blood Hails Steel, Steel Hails Fire is the name of that album, and the title track is just a monster. To me, that is a great, and it's cool they put that song on the beginning because it's a monster. And I get it, if the vocals don't sit with you and some of the other stuff, I don't really see how it's going to get much better for you, because out of the two releases I've heard from them, that's kind of the wheelhouse they're in. I would say out of the two guitar players, they need to get someone that shreds, because the guy that's been delegated to playing solos is obviously not, they're good riff writers. They can play. They're good musicians. I'm just not down with the solos. They're pretty lackluster.
Yeah, and Jurgen, I just saw your comment. I do want to reiterate, the accent is not a huge turnoff for me. That is not something that I'm saying, you're like, ugh. That's not an issue at all. I know some folks who cannot listen to much German metal because of the accent and the way they write the lyrics. That's not the big problem here. One last thing I'll say, in terms of something else that bothers me about the album, it's very clear the band wants to be in that epic metal camp. I mean, you can see it, from the name to the cover art. The packaging here is awesome. Awesome cover art. The band pictures, the art, everything inside the kind of somewhat cheesy, Conan inspired pseudonyms they've got for themselves. They very much want to be considered epic metal. If you really listen to the music, though, they're kind of straddling the line between there's epic elements, but there's also just a lot of very straightforward traditional metal. It wouldn't be a stretch if you replaced this with something like, the art and name of that Solicitor album you showed earlier. People would have no troubles calling the music on this new wave of traditional heavy metal. And it might not, and it wouldn't really be like, and maybe with some epic parts mixed in. I think if they want to be epic, epic metal is something where if you're going to do it, you've got to do it kind of big. You've got to go all in on that. You need a big bombastic sound. You've got to, really, have the vocal hooks. You've got to have the solos. It's got to be epic, as the name implies. And this band, I don't know if they're, trying to have one foot in both styles at the same time, or if they just haven't quite picked a lane. But I don't feel they're epic enough to really stand up there with something, like the Doom Swords or the Atlantean Codexes. The names I think of as, this is, pure, great, epic metal. I feel like Megaton Sword, maybe they're playing it a little bit safe. They're showing a little bit too much of a traditional influence too much of the time. And if they want to, if they want to be, the next Iron Sword or something like that, embrace it. Go take that giant, 100-pound, broadsword and run with it. Well, or don't. That's not very safe. But yeah, embrace your, inner barbarian and go full epic. I feel like the album is holding back for some reason, and that's part of the problem. At the end of the album, I'm like, that just didn't feel epic enough. If I want epic metal, I want it to be big, fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian meets Cthulhu, in some Greek temple to battle for the universe kind of epic. I don't want it kind of, we're a little bit epic. I think they can, again, not saying the album is terrible. If I'm going to grade it, I'm going to give it something like a C+, shows some potential, has some good parts, but I want them to amp it up, take it, and realize that epic dream, if that's what you want to do, or go the other direction and, hey, make a really killer traditional metal album with some, again, fire up the guitar solos, blaze a path in that direction alongside bands like Traveler and those guys, and there's nothing wrong with that either. But right now it feels like they're kind of stuck a little in between those two styles, and as such it didn't quite click on either for me.
Kellen brings up a good point here. And I kind of agree with this because I thought about this when I first heard the album. The band is 100% built around the personality of the lead vocals. If that doesn't do it for you, Megaton Sword won't be your thing. I did say, here's a band that has an amazingly good, unique singer. It is writing some really atypical vocal harmonies to go over these riffs, largely simplistic riffs. You could tell they wrote the riffs to be super catchy, but super minimal, so the singer could really pile on, because he isn't just following the riffs verbatim. He's making some unique atypical choices in some of the vocal placing the words over the riffs. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, he's not a bad singer. I don't mind his stuff, but I mean, like you and Kellen are really into him. I'm like, he's fine. So yeah, maybe at that point, since I'm not latching onto him in particular, that there's just not enough in the background then to get me over the top. But so it is. We can agree to disagree like gentlemen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Indubitably.
Next up, I'm going to promote my buddies a little bit because they just put out an EP a couple weeks ago that turned out pretty good, and I played on one of the songs. This is Draughter with Brave Draughter Day. This is basically this release is dedicated to the music and lineup of Catatonia's Brave Murder Day. The purveyors of emotive extreme metal will never be matched, and basically they cover Brave, which I played some stuff on, and Day, and they also did an original song called Drowned, which is in the spirit of Catatonia. I'm really proud of these guys. This turned out really good. The sound is really good. Noah's vocals sound a lot like Ackerfeld, which is to be commended. The guy can really fucking belt it out, and they worked hard on this, and it turned out really, really good. Really proud of them, and it was a lot of fun playing some of the stuff, doing some things I don't typically do musically. So it was a bit of a challenge and a lot of fun, but definitely go over to Draughter, Draud R. Go to their Bandcamp, order a copy of this. It's really damn good. Recommend it. And they did a pretty damn good job. They found a dead seagull on the beach, took a picture of it. Seemed to work out perfect. So
must be one of
good,
those millions and millions of birds getting killed in wind turbines every year.
right? Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Yeah, check out Draughter. Good stuff.
Yeah, and just to clarify on the wind turbine thing, there's actually a British study done years ago that disproved all that nonsense completely. They actually counted like how many birds were getting killed in wind turbines all over the UK for an entire year, and it averaged out to something like 2 per turbine. So
I've had more
I know.
birds hit my window. They see the reflection and run into it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a funny graphic of like, how many birds are killed in wind turbines per year versus how many birds are killed by house cats per year, and it's like orders of magnitude larger. So it's
Yeah,
like
of
if you're
course.
really that worried about the birds, you're not bitching about wind turbines. You're like trying to exterminate cats.
Right.
So yeah, it's just one of those funny arguments that comes up because I have to. I teach science stuff, and people ask such things sometimes. Anyway, okay, now here's a sort of epic sounding traditional metal album that I did like. And this is the first Iron Flame album. I've been playing this lately. Yeah, just really cool stuff. This, of course, is mostly a one-man project, but it's well, it's not breaking any new ground. It's just doing the style really solid justice. The songs are catchy. Everything's put together very well. The best compliment I can give it is if you didn't know it was a one-man project, you really wouldn't expect it was. You'd be like, oh no, that sounds like a perfectly normal, 4 or 5 guys putting together, what's obviously meant to fall into that category of music. And then you're like, oh, well, one guy does a ton of the stuff here and has some other folks help him out here and there. Okay, wow, that's pretty impressive. So yeah, I'd ordered some stuff from Dive Bomb for around Black Friday, and I've been meaning. Again, this was one that had been on the I will order it sooner or later, but it never quite made the cut in other orders. And so this time I made sure to go ahead, pick up a couple of the Iron Flame albums. And yeah, so Lightning Strikes the Crown, solid stuff. Can't go wrong there.
Andrew wears his influences on his sleeve. A lot of Maidenisms in there, but it's really all 3 albums are really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he does. Absolutely. Like I said, he is not redefining the genre in any way, but he's doing the genre justice, which is more than you can say for a lot of bands that just copy and paste, and it has no real impact. Iron Flame is definitely worth listening
to. There's a little message up there from Ash Bowen I put up in the screen there. Alan, I'm still shaking head at your dismissal of Don't Break the Oath.
I knew somebody was going to bring that up tonight. I knew there was somebody out there who was still curled up under their dining room table, unable to accept that reality. He paired it against Awaken the Guardian. It was an unfair, flagrant foul, red card kind of violation. What can I do?
All right. Next up for me, another one that was in the Zoller box that I've always had on tape and LP. It was good to finally get a CD copy of Ticket to Mayhem by East Coast Whiplash.
Nice.
This is one of those often overlooked classic thrash bands that America produced in the 80s. This came out in 87 on Roadrunner. Their second album, I really struggle to figure out which one I like better, if it's this one or Power and Pain, but both of these albums are great. Of course, The Burning of Atlanta is classic.
So good.
Walk the Plank.
Yeah.
I mean, this
Last Nail in the Coffin.
Yep, Snake Pit. I mean, this is a lethal, ripping ass album. And you want to talk about a power trio that really was lethal. These guys were it. It's all teeth showing, bloody knuckles, American thrash. I mean, you could tell these guys have probably been in a few street/bar fights, and they really kind of transferred well to their music. Great classic. I shouldn't have to go too into depth about this. If you have not heard the first 2 Whiplash albums, they are excellent examples of American thrash.
And I'll bet most of those street fights were started by somebody asking them, dude, what kind of pussies put Fisher Price guys on the record cover? Because that's a horrible fucking record cover.
Yeah, it's not a good cover for sure.
No. Taylor Swift albums have not so good record covers. That is just hideously bad. you really do have to wonder how many people didn't buy that album back in the day because of that cover.
Yep.
You have Fisher Price people in the background, for God's sake. They couldn't even get just a crappy artist to draw something. They're like, no. Let me go through my 6-year-old's toy box and just stand some things up here in front of some construction paper cutouts, and we'll do that as a cover.
Yep.
And yeah, for the music inside to be that good, but got packaged that badly, somewhere out there, there's a mathematical formula that will tell you how many sales they lost due to that cover art, and the amount is staggering. Not that Power and Pain had that much better of a cover, but it compared to that, it's the Mona Lisa.
Was Frederick saying new Whiplash coming soon? And to be honest, I have not heard any albums past the first two. I had a buddy, a buddy had one with the dude on the train tracks in a wheelchair. Stupid fucking cover. And I heard it wasn't as good, so I never really investigated. At that point, I was into death metal and all the other stuff at the point. So
yeah, I feel like I heard the third one back in the day and wasn't as impressed with it. But yeah, the first two, I think most people pick Power and Pain as their favorite, but I will take Ticket to Mayhem.
They're so close. They run so close. They're both great. They're both great thrash album songs.
Yeah, I mean, both good. But yeah, Ticket, Power and Pain's an album I like. Ticket is an album I love. And I get so much mileage out of making jokes about that album cover that I guess I should be thankful it's so bad, because even that part ends up being fun.
Tim Saunders says, Happy New Year, Marty, Alan. Good to see Alan didn't dress up as Baby New Year. Well, there's always next week. Check out.
I'm wearing a diaper with a giant pin in it. What more do you want, Tim?
Dependent. He's old enough where it's depends now, so it's not really a diaper. It's a,
we can always do this. Censored.
All right, Alan.
Okay, here's a cool compilation I picked up from Writing Easy Records. They're best known for doing the Brown Acid series of compilations, digging up old singles by these kind of proto heavy metal bands from the 70s, various styles of hard rock, acid rock, psychedelic rock, however you want to divide that stuff up. They're interesting. They've been doing volumes of it for several years. This year, they started a heavy metal based series. It's called Scrap Metal. They put out the first volume. And they're kind of doing the same thing. They're looking for, so far, I'm pretty sure all these are US bands. There might be a UK or Euro band mixed in that I'm missing. But, they're looking for those small bands that put out a couple of demos, maybe a single. They were never more than sort of, local heroes on their scene. And they're digging those bands up and putting out a compilation series dedicated to those metal bands more of the 80s. That obviously is meant to sort of complement the Brown Acid series, highlighting a lot of the lost gems from the 70s. So this is, of course, this is right up my alley. Anybody that watches my channel, this is the kind of stuff I feature very regularly over there. And yes, humble brags. I think I've got every single release on this already, so I didn't really need to buy it, but I definitely wanted to pick it up. They definitely have better sounding tracks on here. Some of the stuff I've got, is obviously like third generation tape trades, then converted to MP3s. So it's kind of, some of them I've got sound kind of weak. Sorry, just stop and read a comment here. Love the Scrap Metal series. Yeah, the Brown Acid is always a fun series. And I hope they'll keep this one running. There's a ton of material they can mine for this series if they can, track the bands down, get the rights to it, which is something that's nice about the label. They, always state, that they have permission from the bands to use these songs and that they are paying the bands to use these songs. They're not just culling them from old singles and putting them out there and not even telling the band about it or anything. But this particular one's got Rapid Tears, a band called Air Raid with a good song, Hades, which was a long-running band out of New Jersey, I think. Restless, with no T in it, because it's an 80s band, and you get extra points for misspelling things in the 80s. Don Kappa, The Beast was a really good punky influence band on here. Dead Silence out of Colorado had an amazing single one of the songs is on here. They had some really good material demoed that never got released, which is a real shame. So maybe that can show up on a later one. Hazardous Waste, I want to say they were a Massachusetts band that, again, had kind of a slightly punky vibe, but really, really catchy. Danger Zone is their track. That single is really fun, and that's one that's not too expensive or too hard to find if you're into that stuff. They have Czar with Iron Curtain, which is one of the best of those unsung U.S. 80s independently released singles. You don't get any better than Czar's Iron Curtain single. And they close it out with a real rarity by a band called Real Steel, called a track called Viking Queen. That's a single that's always been very, very rare and very expensive. And it's one of the few bands that put out a single that veered a lot more into thrashy territory. You could tell they were more Metallica influenced, where most of the bands on here otherwise, they're more mid and early 80s concerns. You know, their influences would have been more the typical new wave of British heavy metal, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden contingent. Real Steel was going for something much closer to Metallica. And yeah, that Viking Queen single, how many internal organs do you not need? You might generate enough to buy a copy if you can track down a copy. So it's kind of a nice inclusion as, sort of one of the, much rarer singles to throw on there too. These things always have kind of minimal packaging. They do like, a very short description, just a few quick sentences about each band that's featured, and, a picture or two here and there, and that's about it. But yeah, if you're interested in a lot of these unsung bands that, quite frankly, never went anywhere, but did leave that one little single or demo of, to prove they existed, that they were there at the time, keep an eye out for this. Pick this up, go order a copy from Writing Easy, show them there's enough interest and love for that material that it's going to be worth their time to keep tracking bands down and do a Scrap Metal Volume 2 and 3 and 4. The material's out there. I have a couple of boxes of singles that, were exactly this kind of stuff. So I know it exists, and it would be cool to see more of those bands get a little more attention and have a CD pressing of at least one of their tracks.
All right, Alan,
Tonight's episode is brought to you by Writing Easy Records, our new sponsor.
I wish. All right, you'll be proud of me for these next couple, but I'm a little late to this band. Thanks to my friend Zoller for sending this stuff to me, and I've been enjoying the crap out of this. Strangers in the Night by UFO Live. On the Ever Metal Pat Benatar label Chrysalis. Of course, they did have Armored Saint, so I mean, you can't say they didn't dabble in it. But UFO, to me, listening to it now as an old guy that missed out on this band during their heyday, they strike me as Kiss level, but way better. Everything about them, from the vocalist to the guitar playing to the bass playing to the songwriting, it's got that Kiss feel to it at its heart, but they're a little bit more rockin' and a little bit better musicians and songwriters. They're British band with Michael Schenker on guitar.
Pete Way,
who passed away this year, on bass. I've got one other album by them which I enjoyed, but this obviously is of the era where it's like all the earlier stuff, the real classic. It's got Lights Out on here, Doctor.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a killer track list.
This is a good track list. You could tell it says it's recorded in Chicago, but maybe the original recording was, but you could tell like all live albums from this era, it was fucked up in the studio. They did it in the studio and they added crowd noise to it, because the crowd noise that's added sounds like they're playing in a fucking stadium, which we all know that's not true.
At that time, they may have been playing in some stadiums, but no, they definitely cleaned up the sound on it. That's a good example of
good stuff.
Something we talked about earlier with Motorhead, where a lot of times live albums and best of releases and stuff, they're fine, whatever. It's a good way to introduce yourself to the band if you don't know them. But every now and then a band puts out one that's so good that it becomes an integral part of their discography. And Lights Out is as important a UFO record as any of their studio releases. It's a fantastic live album. It's often heralded as one of the best live albums ever recorded by hard rock or heavy metal bands, and it's really hard to argue with that. The track list is amazing. The performances are on fire. It's UFO at the height of their powers. And yeah, any of those, you really can't go wrong with any of those early UFO albums. The first two are very, very different. They're pre Schenker, and the first one, and I may get these mixed up. It's been a long time, but I think the first one has got a very, very fat, heavy bottom end sound, distorted. It's almost what you'd consider like a stoner rock kind of sound now. The only thing to compare it to at the time was probably Blue Cheer. And the second album was a bit more spacey sounding. Almost. It's been too long. However I describe it's going to be very poor. But yeah, it had like one of these like 18-minute tracks on it, if I remember right, where they're kind of trying to sound more proggy or something. But then they got Schenker on board and they stripped all that away. And yeah, like you said, they become a very straightforward 4/4 rock band, but they did it so very well with, Way's vocals and Schenker's incredibly emotive guitar playing. There's no way that band was not going to be fantastic, and they were. And they're a band people have forgotten about a little bit over the years. They never got as big in the U.S. as other territories. And you got to the 80s, the lineup changed, the albums got a little more, they definitely steered more towards the rock and pop rock side, away from the hard rock, or definitely away from the more metallic side. But if you go back and you look and you read interviews with all of those new wave of British heavy metal bands when they were coming out, all that stuff in the early 80s, and you talk to Angel Witch, what are your influences? Diamond Head, who are your influences? Tigers of Pantang, who are your influences? Almost to a T, every single one of them mentions UFO.
Def Leppard as well. Def Leppard.
Yes, absolutely.
I've seen the singer, I can't remember, Joe Elliott, interview talking about seeing UFO back in the day and just being completely blown away by them. And
yes, absolutely. The importance of UFO to helping inspire that generation of bands that created 80s modern sounding heavy metal should never be underestimated.
Fastway with Pete Way and Fast City Clark was also good, says Bassman 13. Also, Frederick Zunko is asking, never gotten to UFO. It's not brutal for me. Recommend a good LP, please. I don't
actually. Lights Out, the one Marty showed, is a perfect introduction, even though it's a live album.
Strangers in the Night.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I called it Lights Out. Strangers in the Night. Start with that. If you don't ever hear anything else, that right there will tell you everything you really need to know about classic UFO.
And if you don't like it from here, don't pursue further, I guess,
Yeah. If it's not for you, that's okay. It's not going to be for everybody. And for folks that are going to be into the more extreme end of the spectrum, UFO may not be that appealing. But never forget where you came from. And heavy metal as we know it today came from bands like UFO and Thin Lizzy doing their thing and inspiring that next wave of metal bands to pick up instruments, form bands, record demos, and take heavy metal out. Because again, UFO would have been called a heavy metal band for parts of the 70s. But then those, the next group of teenagers came along and reinvented it into the heavy metal that you, I, and all the people, listening and watching and chatting right now, have grown up with and loved. You cannot underestimate UFO's importance in our history.
Nope. And the thing that's really dumb is, them and Saxon had a U.S. tour here some years ago that came through Traverse City, Michigan, not even a mile from my house, and I did not go. I'm so dumb because I wasn't really listening to Saxon much at the time. Now I've since then gotten into them. They're more later years because they got more power metal, heavier, less new wave of British heavy metal, more modernized, I guess. But I would have loved to have seen that show. It would have been great. I kicked myself. I didn't want to pay the $25 for something I hadn't really heard a lot of. I should have went, but I didn't.
You're dead to me, sir.
I'm sorry. All right, Ellen.
Okay, let's see. What else have I been playing lately? this isn't an oldie but a goodie, but it's certainly a goodie. Twisted Tower Dyers, Wars in the Unknown. I know a lot of folks sort of wrote this band off after Tony, had his accident.
Be right back.
And passed away. Sure, no problem. But and yes, yeah, I understand the new vocalist whose name escapes me at the moment. No, he's not as strong a singer as Tony was. He's not trying to be. Nobody's claiming he is. But what I want to claim is that the 2 albums they've done since that time are both really, really good. They've definitely kept the spirit of the band alive. They're making excellent material. This is such a good example of modern U.S. power metal done right. It's not overly fast or speedy. It does not have the sort of foo-foo, fluffy elements of power metal that some people associate with the European style. This is American metal at its core. It's got a good gallop to it. The songs are very catchy. Twisted Tower Dyer, at this stage in their career, they remind me a bit of Cage, the band from San Diego. The songs tend to be very story-based. They're drawing, their stories from things like World War II, different, sci-fi, horror, fantasy. And so every song kind of has its own personality, its own little story to tell, which is something that always appeals to me. I like it when bands mix that up quite a bit. And yeah, this one is every bit as good as, stuff that's come before it. It got a little bit overlooked. It probably could have used better cover art. But if you like this style of music and you haven't paid any attention to Twisted Tower Dyer, since Tony's passing, you owe it to yourself to go back. Check out Wars in the Unknown. Check out the one that came before this also. They are both chock full of really solid songs, good performances. This is one of those bands, they should be bigger and get mentioned more often in circles than they seem to be. It's a shame. They've been around for a long time. They've always put on a good show. They've always written good music. Twisted Tower Dyer. It's one that, even though it's been out for several years, I will still pull that album out every now and then and play it a handful of times before I put it away, which is why I'm talking about it tonight. It has once again come back off the shelf. It gets those repeat listens. And with all the metal that comes out every year and all the things people keep recommending for me to check out, yeah, if a CD is still getting, semi-regular spins, 2, 3, 4 years after it was released, that's a testament to how good it is and how much I enjoy it, because it's very easy. People mention it in the chat and in video comments all the time. They hear something, they kind of like it, they put it on the shelf, and the next thing they know, it's 3 years later and they haven't even thought about it. Twisted Tower Dyer doesn't fall in that category. They always come back off that shelf.
H Metal Justin says, "You guys are so geeky about your metal, and I love it." I'm not a lot of things, but I am definitely geeky.
I am the King Lord High of the geeks. I have no problem with that title whatsoever.
Unashamed. All right, Alan, you'll be proud of me here. And this is another thing in the Zoller box that you've shown and talked very highly about. And I thought I would check it out before I pass it off to somebody. I'm probably going to keep it. That's St. Vitus COD.
There you go.
I was happily surprised at how much I like this. This is a Season of Mist reissue, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them once. I don't know what vocalist I saw them with. This is what, Scott Reeder on vocal. Wait.
No, that one's Christian Lindstrom.
Oh, right on.
Yep.
Back in the day, I had Thirsty and Miserable on vinyl and one other one on vinyl. I gave them both to Stephen O'Malley, but they never clicked with me. But after listening to this, I kind of regret it because this is heavy. It's well produced. That earlier St. Vitus stuff I had wasn't produced well. They were trying to do the Sabbath thing, but not as well. I don't know. This struck me as being really heavy, really slow, pretty doomy album. It begs for repeated listens. I put it on. I listened to the whole thing from start to finish. I enjoyed every minute of it. I can't really offer much more than that, to be completely honest.
It's a cool album. And it's interesting you mentioned the production, because that's actually the one sticking point for most Vitus fans, is that album sounds way too clean to them because it's produced by Don Dokken. I shit you not.
I did see it on there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, to most people, it's, a lot of people rank it kind of low in the St. Vitus discography because, and it's not because of the songs. Like, the songs are fine, and it's not because of the vocalist. It's the one album they did without Scott or Wino. But Christian, has a good doom metal pedigree with, Count Raven and other projects. It's the production that drives people nuts on that album because it sounds so clean that it just sounds very out of place in the St. Vitus discography. But it doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other Vitus fans. It is noticeable how different it sounds, but it is still, as you said, a really solid offering of really solid doom metal.
Yep.
Even if you do have a different vocalist and a much cleaner production than anything else that Vitus has ever done.
Right on.
So, cool. I'm glad you liked that one.
I did. I enjoyed it.
All right. Let's see. I got a few more things in the stack here.
I've got about 6 more.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a few more here. Let's see. Another thing I picked up recently. I owned both these albums way back in the day. Haven't owned them in years, but turned out they were put together on a single CD, and I found it for a few bucks. I was like, yeah, I'll probably buy that. It's a Picture, and this is a Dutch heavy metal band. I talked about them a bit back when Simon was on an episode of Heavy Metallurgy with you and I earlier this year. They were one of the earliest Dutch metal bands on the scene. Their first album came out, I think, in 1980, so they were definitely following very quickly on the footsteps of the new wave of British heavy metal. This particular one pairs albums 2 and 4, which is kind of weird. There's apparently another CD that has the first and third albums together. I never get why labels do that. Maybe it's just the length of the albums that they have to pair them that way to cram them onto a single disc.
That could be. That's probably it.
Maybe so. It's always a little goofy. But anyway, the second album they released was called Heavy Metal Ears. English, probably not their first language. I'm not going to hold it against them, but it looks a little funny. The fourth album called Eternal Dark. I always liked the cover on this one. Well, I mean, it's not, it's not Don't Break the Oath or anything, but it's still just, kind of a cool,
What do you mean Don't Break the Oath? You're not even supposed to utter those words anymore. That album is no longer in your scope ever.
You're dead to me, sir.
And for anybody that wants to wonder what I'm talking about, go revisit 2 days ago, Wednesday. We did a little game that you should all check out.
We did. That was a lot of fun, and we will do it again. But yeah, Picture. If you just wanted something, to be the textbook definition of straightforward, no frills, 4/4 time heavy metal, you could pick Eternal Dark, and that could just be the picture that you stick in the dictionary next to heavy metal. Greatest album ever recorded? No. The band went through a lot of lineup changes, so the albums kind of vary from album to album. They seem to have a real hard time keeping a stable lineup, but there's still really good songs on here. Eternal Dark in particular has some good ones. The title track they start with is really good. It's followed by Griffin's Guard the Gold, which is a solid track. Yeah, Battle for the Universe. They hit all the classic heavy metal tropes, as you can tell from the song titles. Heavy Metal Ears doesn't have as many standouts, in my opinion, and that may be a product of it being a couple of years earlier in their discography. I think these two albums came out in 1982 and 1984, respectively, if I'm remembering right. But yeah, it's been cool to revisit Picture. It's cool to have that particular art back on the record shelf. Again, it's just one that I particularly enjoy. They're not going to become anybody's favorite band, I don't think. But if you've never checked out their stuff, Eternal Dark at least is worth dialing up on YouTube sometime, just so that you can be like, yeah, you'll probably be pleasantly surprised that you gave it a spin or two. So yeah, glad to have that back on the shelf. Am I sad that I let the original albums go years ago? To be honest, not really. They would never have gotten played much over the years. They would have taken up space, and I'd have lugged them around for years, and I might have played them 4 more times a piece, if I'm being honest. But I don't mind picking up the CD in this day and age.
There's been a lot of instances where I've had to rebuy shit that either just mystically disappeared or I got rid of thinking I would never listen to again, and then something inspired me to check it out, and then I'm so into it I gotta have it.
Yeah,
There's been countless times I've kicked myself, but
that happens. And, that might be a fun topic for some night is the albums we had to go back and shamefully rebuy because
yeah,
we were idiots and let go of them. Picture does not fall in that category. I was
right.
not looking for this CD. I didn't even know it existed. I was buying other stuff from, that one came from Dive Bomb, I'm pretty sure. And it was just a matter of, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, it's not very expensive. A lot of stuff on Dive Bomb's list is really reasonably priced. So I was like, sure, throw it in the box with the rest of the stuff. So no, picture is there's no seller's remorse there, but it was only like $6 or $7. It was not expensive at all. It was just like, yes, we can add that to an already existing cart and be content.
Right on.
What you got next, Marty? I'm going to grab one or two more things here since you still got a few to go.
Yeah. Next up for me, I've talked about this band before. Admittedly, they're very cheesy, probably very cringeworthy for a lot of people watching this right now, but I don't really care. I've been in a big power metal mood for most of this year. It's been very refreshing. I needed to kind of cleanse some of that metal negativity out of my brain, and power metal does it really well for me. These guys are cheesy. These guys are leaning on the pop side of the genre. It's Germany's Orden Ogen. I've been kind of obsessed with these guys, picking up albums as I go. This is their latest one, Final Days, and this is an older one, Gunman. And yes, you are right, Devin. This shit is pretty much Sabaton. I would say they're stylistically, I think Sabaton's a little bit more macho, war, obviously war themed. These guys, this is very poppy stuff. You could tell the songs are written around a very strong chorus. I don't know. I like the guy's voice. I think he's a good songwriter. And even though the songs are super cheesy, super poppy, I really do like these guys quite a bit. I listen to them probably a lot more than I should admit. But it's just good drive around, pump your fists, sing along with the chorus type stuff. Very talented. The main guy behind it, he's super talented dude, good songwriter. He writes very much in a formula though, so don't go in expecting a lot of difference between albums. Just good songwriting, good choruses, good German heavy metal on the commercial side. Very good stuff. I enjoy this band quite a bit.
Pretty cool. I've heard a few songs, haven't really dived into them that much.
Didn't you buy To the End?
No, I've not picked one up. I've heard I've played some of the tracks. So yes, I've heard you mention the band before, but I haven't heard enough to.
If any of them, that's probably the one you're gonna like. You're gonna like the most.
We'll try to revisit it this weekend.
Don't just buy it. Just listen to it first. I'm not gonna feel bad again after that.
Oh no. I typically, even Megaton Sword, I had heard some of those tracks before. I liked them enough that I was willing to pick up the CD. I rarely blind buy anymore. It's something I did tons of back in the day. But these days, I have to hold on stuff. What do we got here?
Jurgen, not a fan of Orden Ogen. Orden Ogen, not a fan. Anyway,
that's fair.
All right.
Okay. Let's see. This is a band folks have talked about from time to time. Jeff, actually, Metal Madness has talked about this band a bit. And it's a band I'd play like a song here or there by YouTube, but I don't think I was ever in the right mood for it. And really oddly, a used CD showed up in one of the local stores a month or so ago. I was just like, well, yes, you may have my $8 and I will take a chance on it. And glad I did. It's a Mournful Congregation. This was their album June Frost.
June Frost, good album.
Yeah, I'd heard a song here and a song there by the band, and it's like, okay, not bad, but I guess I just wasn't in that death doom kind of mood when I heard it, because I was like, I'll come back to it later. It was not a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It was a put it back in the queue and we'll give it another try some other time. But yeah, $8 here, and was like, who the hell around here had that? And who the hell around here had that and didn't like it enough that they sold it back to a used store? I don't know. But yeah, I picked it up, and it's pretty cool, Death Doom. The one thing that stands out to me,
ripping solos.
Something that stands out to me, something else that stands out to me compared to a lot of other death doom bands is that this isn't trying to sound super dense and murky. A lot of these bands here, they want it to be like, as abysmal and guttural and dark sounding as possible. Mournful Congregation obviously has that aura about them, but in terms of like production and playing, it's relatively clear, which I actually find kind of refreshing. I like death doom and funeral doom stuff, but it's not something I play a ton of. I'll play a couple of albums, get my fix, and usually move on. And part of it is that it all kind of has that same dense miasmic sound to it. And this album doesn't. This album, if nothing else, you can say right away, this does not sound like most other bands in that style that I'm familiar with. So, it's a pretty cool little album. I'm glad I paid attention when Jeff and other folks mentioned the band, kept it in the back of my mind, and lo and behold, I had a chance. I took it, and I'm glad I did. It seems like, a pretty cool band with a relatively unique sound, in that genre, which doesn't always allow for a lot of variation. It's one of those genres where you almost feel like you're a bit painted into a corner just by listening to it, but they seem to be doing it a little differently. Good for them.
Right on. Next up for me, this is a cheap Discogs buy. I bought it basically because they are a newer Norwegian black metal band. This is Throne of Catharsis with Helvete.
I've seen that around.
This is nothing to get super excited about, although it's and again, whoever thought the marketing to put those stupid stickers on the top of the sale, god damn it, I hate it so much. But this is pretty average but decent listenable. I've listened to the CD about 3 times. Norwegian black metal, modern band trying to sound older, and it's good, caustic. A lot of fuzz in this recording, but the songs are pretty good. But the cover art alone just shows you that. I mean, who would look at that and say that is our cover art? Fucking A.
Yeah.
Imagine that on a t-shirt. I mean, come on, man. Get your marketing team together and get this shit figured. This came out on Candlelight as well, so I don't know.
Dude, we're too cult to do marketing. You've sold out to the man.
Yeah, but I mean, this I can't really say get this. It's great. It's modern day Norwegian black metal duo trying to sound old from the 90s. They don't. They just sound. It's decent. It's decent stuff. That's really all I have to say about it.
Well, that's fair. Let's see. Since I have listened to a little black metal lately as well. Hasn't been all death and power and doom. And you picked up this album also, I believe, so be interested to hear your thoughts on it. This is black metal via way of Texas with Cinera, the Everlorn. This is, again, sort of a one-man project, but it's not the typical, DSBM you think of with one-man black metal acts. This is a guy who is doing his damnedest, in my opinion, to sound like Dissection. Storm of the Lightsbane, Somberlane era Dissection is all over this album.
He nailed it, really.
And he really did. Yeah. This is going to be a case of, if you're one of those people who only wants to hear the original, that you want to hear Dissection play those 2 albums, and you do not want to even know about, you have no interest in any band trying to emulate that sound, then don't bother. This is not going to interest you. If you're somebody who feels like, damn, I wish there was more albums out there like Storm of the Lightsbane by other bands, but nobody else ever really got close to it. And of course, Dissection didn't really get a chance to follow that up. Here you go. This is the one you've been looking for. And all credits to Ben over on Brain Smasher. He mentioned this early in the years. It's like, that sounds interesting. I downloaded it from bought it and downloaded it from Bandcamp. It's like, yeah, that's pretty good. And the CD, I think the CD and vinyl were quite delayed with pandemic issues, because I would get updates on Bandcamp from him over and over about, I'm really sorry guys, but the album I don't have the physical copies yet. But yeah, it's in some distros now. You can pick it up, and if you want If you want to get your dissection fix without hearing actual dissection, he did it really, really well.
I would agree. He did a really great job on that record. I would say if you're going to order from his Bandcamp, tread lightly because it's starting to sound, I don't know. I'm not going to say rip off, but there's a lot of people that have been waiting for a long time. He says he doesn't have his copies. But Hell's Headbangers had them. That's where Alan picked up a copy for me from. Hell's Headbangers had the LP and the CD, and he said he had COVID. He said he was in a car accident. I mean, it sounds like excuses aplenty, which is kind of starting to sound like the Blake Judd school of business running. So I don't know. I'm not saying the guy's a ripoff. Maybe there's a lot of shit going on. But all I know is there's a lot of people that ordered from him and are not getting their shit. I know Austin from Panopticon ordered over a year ago for a t-shirt and a record and has emailed the guy, and the guy is not responding to emails. So that's usually not a good indication. But it's a drag because it's a good CD. It's a good release. Really strong, spot on dissection worship, kind of like Thulkandra from Germany. Really good stuff.
Yep. So, but yeah, it is out there through other channels. If it sounds interesting, then yeah, it probably sounds like a good idea to track down a different channel to buy it if you want to.
Oh man, everybody, Jurgen's selling his old dissection vinyl on eBay. Get ready to dig in your pockets. Anyway, next up is me, and we're going to talk about a band that I never thought I would check out or like, and it was in the Zoller box. I had to check it out, and I was surprised that I liked this album. This is Stop the Bleeding from Tourniquet.
Oh.
You know, I've heard Scott Waters talk about these guys and kind of salute them, which is, you know, obviously they're a Christian band, and again, I don't give a shit about that. That's fine. But this album, to me, this whole Christian scene, especially from this era, was always, well, if you like Metallica, you will like this band. Whenever you go into the Christian bookstore, they'd have those stickers on there. And I was always kind of you know what, maybe they should just come up with their own damn shit. But this Tourniquet album, I was surprised all the King Diamond-isms on it. There was a lot of King Diamond styled-esque vocals on here. Pretty good thrash metal with King Diamond vocals. Some good heavy metal parts mixed in. It's pretty damn good. I'm gonna keep the CD. I was surprised, and if I see some of their stuff turn up in used bins, I will check it out because it's good. Obviously, God, you got the U neck and the tucked in with the blazer and the too tight pants, and I mean their fashion sense are completely looking like glam metal band almost. But I don't know. This is a pretty good CD.
Look. Yeah, that's cool. I haven't thought of that band in a long time, but yeah, that they were sort of a name in the Christian metal scene for a while there. I had a couple of their albums, and I remember very little about them. I remember them sounding relatively different from one another and having almost like a very slight punky vibe on one of them.
This isn't very punky. There's a lot of like thrashy, heavy metal, and then King Diamond-ish vocals here and there too.
It was still very metal, but it was almost just like maybe they just had some, slight punk overtones. I had a friend who, listened to a lot of Christian metal, and he would always, at least make copies of the stuff for me to check out. And you're right. You're absolutely right. A lot of stuff in that genre there in the late 80s and early 90s, it really was just a, we're going to, copycat some band, but all the lyrics are just going to be Jesus loves me, here I know, set to, a thrash riff, which always just, it's hard to explain. A lot of times it ended up feeling a little disingenuous.
Totally disingenuous. But then there'd be bands like Believer that were really good,
there were some that were very much into the music.
Good. Yeah.
There were the bands that were really good into the music and just, were Christian and added Christian lyrics. That was fine. But yeah, then you had, these other bands that were Christians who just wanted to use the music as a vehicle to try to, bring people into the flock. And you could tell them apart. Tourniquet, I always felt was, on the better side of that equation. That they actually were pretty good songwriters, were pretty unique. It didn't feel like they were blatantly just trying to, use heavy, we're going to make some heavy sounding music to get all you kids away from your satanic records and get you back in the pews. They never had that vibe about them like some bands did.
I also got to say, I mentioned Scott Waters. You should all go check out his channel. He's an old fart metalhead like us. Seems like a nice guy. I've had very small contact with him over the years. I know Jurgen's friends with him, but he was one of the 3 or 4 dudes that inspired me to start doing the channel. So definitely go check out Scott. It's a totally cool channel. I still watch all of his videos to this day. Although I would say his Aerosmith love is a little bit unhealthy. Just as they're one of the bands that should be shot into space and never to be seen again. But other than that, check out his channel. Very good. Anyway, you're up, Alan.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, responding to Wendy in the chat here from it. Yeah, she was just making a good point about, one problem, with those, Christian bands, it's very weird to listen to, a band trying to play heavy extreme music while they're preaching at you. And I agree. That formula just doesn't work. But some of those better bands, it doesn't feel like that's what they're doing. They are there to play music, have fun, and it just happens to have, a Christian slant to it.
And I gotta say, cool. Wendy, I understand your point, because when I was younger, that shit used to drive me crazy as well. But the older I've gotten, I've kind of realized that even the satanic bands are preaching at us. It's all, if you're singing about Satan, if you're singing about Jesus, it's all Christian. I hate to, the satanic bands would get their asses all, their undies up in a bunch over that, but it's true. I mean, it's true. If you're singing about Satan, it's a Christian concept. Mm-hmm. It's all Christian. It's all, if you look at it that way, it's all Christian metal, then, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. And if you believe in that stuff, great, whatever gets you down the road. But I don't, and I'm getting so tired of it after all these years. But anyway, go ahead. That was a little side rant there. There you go, Alan.
Oh, no, it's fun. And there's, you can go in circles on that for a long time. There's lots of those older satanic bands that quickly got out of that because they realized it's like, wait, I'm just propping up the other end of the Christian equation. That didn't make any sense.
Yep.
And then, yes, there's always the fun memes of, the kid always wanted to be like, hey, can I go over to Timmy's house? His family has the records that don't suck.
Yep.
Anyway, another black metal one that finally picked up a physical copy of. I've had this, I got this on Bandcamp when the band was out back in the day, but I didn't order the actual record, which I should have because it got expensive. But it finally got reissued, picked up the reissue. Most folks know and will probably like this one, Caladan Broods, one and only album to date.
Oh, such a great record.
Really good album. It is completely they're taking the summoning formula and
verbatim.
Yeah, it's like Sinra is copying Dissection, Caladan Brood is copying Summoning. It's just that instead of Lord of the Rings, the whole album is about, it's some other long-running fantasy series, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the author or the series. Somebody in the chat can help jog my memory here. It's one of those sets of books that has like a 40,000 year timeline, and you literally are like tracking continents shifting around by the time you get through the whole series and stuff. But yeah, if you like something and don't know this, there you go. If you only want to hear something do it, okay, this has nothing different to the equation except the hobbits are all replaced by the Caladan Brood, which is one of the groups of characters, societies, something. Again, it literally goes through thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history in the book series, whatever the heck it is. But yeah, excellent album. Been getting a few spins on that one lately too.
Also, the if you were to buy the vinyl edition of that album, not has only one but two summoning covers on it as bonus tracks.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yep,
mine doesn't have that. Well, crap.
I don't think it's on the CD. It's on the 2 LP set.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not on the. I don't think it was on the CD. I don't remember it. No,
there might be one of them on the CD. No, there is none. Okay, I knew it was both on the. Okay, I've got 3 more here. This was in the Zoller box, and I'm like, this is probably something I'm not going to be into. I might have shown this. I don't know. This is Dark Tranquility, Damage Done.
You talked about this with Austin a couple of weeks ago.
I'm not going to talk. I'll skip to the next one then.
Okay.
This one I've got. This is a good album. Mortiferum. This is Disgorged from Psychotic Depths.
Yep.
I know they got a new album out this year, which I have not gotten around to checking out yet. I also got this on vinyl. This is a great for like this Death Doom style. These guys are really gnarly, really down there, nasty sounding, well written. Out of bands in this genre, these guys really stand out for me. I'm looking forward to the new album, but it's a really good, solid, well-written album. I got fucking heartburn. Sorry. Yeah, super heavy, dismal death, doom, well-written, excellent stuff on Profound Lore.
Yeah, you're agreed on all counts. And I just bought the new album yesterday.
Is it good?
So I haven't played it yet. I haven't even taken it out of the case yet. But yeah, I stopped by the local store. I hadn't been by in probably a month or more, probably since before the holidays. Figured they'd have a few new things, and yep, they had the new Mortiferum. So I was just like, yep, I'll take one of those, please. I've heard good things about it, that it stays pretty true. I don't think there's a massive divergence based on the reviews. So yeah, we'll get it in the CD player as soon as I get something else out of the CD player. Make room for it.
On.
But yeah, I agree on all counts. It's definitely, they're one of the better bands. Something other folks have commented on, I have to agree about. The cover art, both on Disgorged and also this new one, Preserved in Torment, they do whoever the artist is, does a very good job of making images that are kind of disturbing and makes you kind of feel a little queasy, uneasy, without being just, ridiculously in your face with, splatter gore kind of stuff. If you look at these at first, it doesn't seem that bad, but the more you look at it, the more you kind of feel like, I don't quite know what's going on here, but I'm getting a kind of funny feeling in my stomach if I look at this. I don't think I want to look at it anymore right now. It does a very good job of establishing the mood without just being, very one-dimensional and blatant and just, here's a person's body chopped into pieces, fed to a cow, shit out the back end, and fed through a wood chipper. Whatever. This can actually I think this actually does a better job and creates a better effect of just being, really creepy, but it's very hard to pin down why it bothers you.
Right.
So kudos to the artist for Mortiferum.
Right on.
All right. Getting down to the last couple here. This is album I had not played in a long time. Got rid of it a long time ago, but again, was at a local store. Somebody had obviously brought in a bunch of old metal discs. They had it very cheap. I'm just like, I haven't been missing it, but for $5.99, yes, I will rebuy it. And it is Down's Nola album. And something that's worth noting here, I do tend to give Pantera a lot of crap. I do not like Pantera. I never liked Pantera. I don't like a lot of things about Pantera.
Me either.
But just to be clear, it was never about Phil Anselmo's voice that turned me off to Pantera, because I love Anselmo's performance with some of his other projects, and Down's a good example of that. This was an album when it came out. I played the fuck out of this album. This was one that stayed in my truck CD player for ages. It was heavy enough to be satisfying, but it was easy to listen to just when I was having to do a commute back and forth through the Research Triangle in North Carolina. And yeah, I hadn't really played or even thought about it in a long time, but it was sitting there for $5.99. It's just like, hell yeah, I'll play that again. It's a style that's not for everybody. It's that sort of southern stoner, downer, doomy-ish, sludgy stuff. And it's not, I don't like every band that does that style. It's not a style I need to hear a ton of. I can play that CD. I'll play it 2 or 3 times, and then it's going to go back on the shelf, and it'll be a while before it comes back off. But yeah, and someone did a really good job with that. There were other, strong musicians in there. I forget the whole lineup. I think some of the guys from I Hate God or something were in it. But yeah, they did. That particular album clicked really well. Yeah, it's one I don't mind coming back to after all these years and rebuying.
Chewing Through It says, Alan, you should check out Down's second album. While I love Nola, their second is actually better.
I had the second one back in the day, and I do remember it being, because it's something like A Bustle in Your Hedgerow, I think was the title of it. And I remember it was solid. I liked it too. I parted ways with it at some point as well. Again, I've done some very big CD purges over the years for different reasons, and both the Down CDs had been moved on. But yeah, who was the commenter? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Chewing Through It.
Chewing is right. Yeah, the Second Down album is equally good. It wasn't just a one-off, and hey, when they made this one album with sort of a super group and then went back their separate ways. Yeah, the second one's a good listen too. I don't know if I'd say it's better, but it holds its own against the first one.
All right. My last one for this session is I just recently read Al Jorgensen's book, The Lost Gospels According to Al Jorgensen, which moral of that story is drugs are bad, kids. Drugs are real bad. Don't do them, or don't do the ones that he did for as long as he did. But I'm an Al fan. I always have been. I'm an industrial fan. I go through little spurts here and there with electronic and industrial music. And reading the book again really got me fired up about some stuff, and filling out a collection of things I've either missed, or this is one I've had on cassette. I spun it, realized how much I enjoyed it. Revolting Cock's Big Sexy Land. This is a Ministry side project with Al Jorgensen, Luke Van Acker, and Richard 23 from Front 242. Basically, super repetitive industrial music, all electronic, a lot of samples, a lot of loops, a lot of repetitive vocals or lyrics. On paper, this shouldn't work, but there is a charm to this stuff that I like. It's very nostalgic. I had some friends that were into this when I was in high school, so I heard a lot of this stuff early on, and it always really stuck with me. And after reading Al's book, I've realized there's a few Ministry albums I'm missing, and once Revco started becoming like a weird, I like it when they were pretty much electronic. Beer, Steers, and Queers was the last album that I really enjoyed by them. After that, they got a little too strange for me. But this early Revco stuff is the epitome of Wax Trax, the record label. It's the epitome of the Wax Trax sound. A lot of this stuff is awesome. Big fan. So yeah, I've been padding out. Eventually on the channel, I'm going to do probably an electronic update one of these days. So yes, I just said Cox. I did, Frederick. Yeah, I basically described 80s dance freestyle, and I think that Revco was pretty much in that as well, but with more hard edge industrial slant to it. But I don't know, I dig it. Yeah, and CD Cult, yes, the new Ministry album. What the fuck's it called? Moral. I can't remember the name of it. It's really good. I was surprised how good it is. It's really good. I'm probably going to end up getting it. But anyway, Alan, you're up.
Yeah. Quick question. It's not a genre I'm very familiar with. Does My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult fit in there somewhere, or is that a little outside the industrial box?
No, that's definitely in there. And they're another long-standing Wax Trax band along
Okay.
with Revco, Revolting Cocks.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean the first few My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult albums are very much industrial. They got weirder as they went on. For anybody that wants to know more about My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, Matt Jones over at The Dark Path just did a deep dive on their catalog, which is definitely worth checking out if you're into that stuff. Matt is another one of the few YouTubers that I've seen in the metals genre that also likes electronic music and industrial music, and he calls his episodes typically bleeps and bloops. But
yep,
check it out.
That's exactly where I wanted to steer people, but it's not a genre I know well at all, so I didn't want to steer people towards Matt's video if it was like, what the hell are you doing comparing Ministry to Thrill Kill Cult? But yeah, that's one I haven't gotten to watch Matt's video yet, but it's on my radar to do so. I have a bunch of My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult for some reason. Actually, there's a good reason, but it's a different story, not for tonight.
Right on.
But yeah, I did want to make sure folks knew about Matt's video, so they can check that out if they want to. Okay, let's see. My last one is one that's been talked about a good amount this year, and we're featured when Ken over at the Crypt did his sort of live concert performance with some bands. It's the Warflark album, Psychedelic Realms of Hell. This one was one that's I thought about downloading. It's like, I think I kind of actually want the CD of that for some reason. And NWN Prod had it. So, and their stuff, he always ships fast. It's never overpriced. So picked it up, and yeah, I'm still spinning this, so I don't have a complete opinion formed on it just yet. But so far, I've liked it. It does very much have the sound of the recent wave of death metal bands sounding old school, but they are kind of giving it a little bit of their own twist, with some different, for dark psychedelic, flourishes here and there. It doesn't take over the music. It's not overwhelming or steering it into a completely different genre or anything, but it gives it some personality so that it doesn't just sound like a lot of the other stuff that has come out in recent years, with bands trying to emulate that older sound and doing it service, but of course, not always living up to the old masters. Warflork, kind of has like their own little vibe going on with this different mixture of the odd psych stuff. And so yeah, so far it's pretty cool, and I'm glad I picked it up. And it's in the CD player, and it's going to stay there for a bit longer. It's earning its spins.
Awesome.
And I'm at the bottom of my stack.
Right on. And Wednesday, we threw out there that to put some questions in the comment section of that video. If anybody, we're going to do like a little short question and answer session here. We'd like to get out of here before midnight so all you folks can go be with your, do whatever you do on New Year's Eve. But so we put it out there. We're going to do a short little Q&A. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. And while we do that, we had a couple that were attached to last Wednesday's stream here. So a vodka Amas has a question for Friday. Do you think that coming from rural areas instead of, for example, New York City had an impact on your perception of heavy metal? Alan?
It did, at least in certain ways. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a town of less than 2,000 people, and we got our second stoplight about the time I was in intermediate school. So I mean, it was definitely cow tipping kind of country. Exposure to heavy metal was obviously relatively limited. We really hung on whatever was on Headbangers Ball. That was the big lifeline back then. Where it did have particular impacts on me, and still in a way does to this day. Heavy metal for me has always been something that I tracked down the record and I listened to the record. There was no chance to see any of this stuff live. It wasn't a matter of, oh, when I'm 16, I can start going to see shows because I'll be able to drive. No, it was just like, if I get to 16 and I have a driver's license, I would still have to drive 6 fucking hours to get to a city where one of these bands might show up. It wasn't ever in the realm of possibility. So, yeah, getting into heavy metal and growing up with it in those early years, it was very much it was a by a physical medium experience. It was not I get to go check out the local scene experience, or I want to see these bands when they come through on tour later. So that very much put me on the collecting path more so than there was no local scene to be a part of. There was no nearby scene to be experienced or get involved with. It was me. Whatever I saw on Headbangers Ball, maybe every now and then you'd find the odd article in some kind of more of a hair metal band publication at the grocery store. They all had Sebastian Bach on the front cover with his shirt open, meant to wow all the girls. Every now and then one of them would have something like Overkill in it, and you pick that one up and skip to that page. So yeah, in that sense, being from rural area, it did have a big impact. The one thing that didn't have an impact on me, and it did other folks that I had to grow up with, there was, in those rural sectors, the whole satanic panic and the fear about heavy metal was very real to a lot of those people. I mean, there were people who, I know one guy, an aunt or something gave him like an Ozzy Osbourne cassette for his birthday. And he played it once, and he thought he heard like some message in the background. He literally like pulled it out of his tape deck and took it out and burned it because he was scared to death that there was a hidden message that was going to make him commit suicide because he'd heard about that whole brouhaha. That never had much of an impact on me. My parents were always very, very cool about me listening to heavy metal. I know it wasn't something they would have preferred I listen to, just in terms of that music sucks. Why ain't you listening to the Elvis and the Bill Haley and all this the older stuff that my dad likes. But they never gave me shit about it. I didn't have to hide my records. I didn't have to listen to my parents bad mouthing heavy metal or calling it shit. They're always like, okay, that's what you want to listen to. Okay, that's cool. We're not going to give you a hard time about it. So I didn't have that experience that a lot of other kids in those rural areas did. So hopefully that answers your question, Vodka. Marty, what's your take?
Very similar. I mean, I'm Traverse City, Michigan. I'm in the lower peninsula of Michigan, but in the northern side of it. And there was no, when I just get old enough, I'll just start going to the shows in town, because there were no shows in town. No shows in town. No local bands to speak of. So, I mean, again, you have to adopt more of a collector mentality. Thankfully, my friend Scott, who, if you're watching, Scott, hey, what's up? He had his finger on the pulse of, the crossover and the metal and the thrash. And I was introduced to a ton of stuff through him. And, obviously, it would become a big competition. We'd both go to the Camelot Music. He'd start in the Z's, I'd start in the A's. We'd meet in the middle, see what tapes we were holding. And I got to get this before he gets it type of thing. There was a lot of that. And, I would have liked to have been involved in a scene where I got old enough to start going to shows. It was easy to go to shows. For us, our first show was in Detroit, which, growing up in the northern Michigan, Detroit was a scary proposition. And, of course, everybody up here told you it was a scary proposition before you go. So you're all worked up and scared before you even got down there. Of course, everything was always all right, but there was always potential where it couldn't be, because all those venues were in not a happy part of town. It was definitely, you really had to want it to get out and start going to shows, which we did. We wanted to. We started doing it, and of course it was fun, but it wasn't a weekly occurrence, because it was half the time you'd hear about the shows after they happened, because you weren't getting the local rags. You didn't know the stuff was going on. So yeah, I mean, you found music you liked, you used your friend to help you discover new stuff. And another big instrumental part was Metal Maniacs. Later on in my later teens, Metal Maniacs was available in the local grocery stores. And that was always a good magazine for turning. Then I was late to finding zines. Once I started discovering zines and starting writing to zines and getting actual copies, that's when it starts opening up. You start getting a wider view of what's going on. And I felt really late to all of that because of my location, to be honest. So
same here. Yeah.
But once I got on it, I figured it out, and it was good. So yeah, I hope that answered your question, Vodka. And we got another one here. Fun to watch. Question for tomorrow night's stream: has there been an album released this year that you had low expectations for that ended up surprising you?
That's a good question.
That's from Robert Morris.
Oh yeah, Robert. He's often in the chat and always leaves really nice comments in videos and such. Let me think about that for a moment. I'm jumping over here and pulling up a list of stuff from this year.
Let's see. I haven't heard enough this year to really say. I would say I was very excited to hear the new Maiden, and was very disappointed by it. I thought it was a horrendous, boring turd. So, I mean, there's that aspect, but I don't know, something I had low expectations for and was really surprised by.
Yeah, nothing's jumping to mind. For me, with Maiden was about what I expected it to be. I didn't have high expectations for it. It'll be okay. It'll probably be pretty similar to what they've been doing for years now, and it was, which I can take it or leave it. But let's see. Other stuff that came out this year, is there anything I had low expectations for that turned out pretty good? Part of the problem is if I have low expectations for something, I probably just don't listen to it. Let's see here. Yeah, not really. The closest thing I can think of is that I wasn't sure what direction. Oh, well, no, that's kind of the opposite direction. That one I was high on and was a little disappointed by. That's not what we're looking for. There was something here a second ago that caught my eye. Dadgummit, where'd it go? I wasn't. Yeah, something ran through my mind, but it seems to be leaving me now. Now, I wasn't 100% sure what Carcass would be doing on the new album, but that worked out fine. But I didn't have low expectations for it. I just wasn't sure, what they would do to follow up on Surgical Steel, since again, there's a long time gap between those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't really say there's anything that I felt like
that's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a good question, and again, having just not heard a ton of stuff, and if there's something I've got low expectations for, it can take me a long time to get around to checking it out. So maybe there's something that I wasn't that interested in that came out, and I haven't got around to checking it out. And hey, maybe I'll love it in the future. So maybe I'll have a better answer for that sometime in 2022. But nothing comes to mind. I'm looking over my list. I've got a list pulled up here on a spreadsheet of stuff from this year, and nothing quite fits the bill for the question. Good question. I just don't have a good answer.
Yeah. Michael asks, I was wondering what your general opinion of Deathspell Omega is. I'm asking because I don't really get them. Well, you know what? From a musical standpoint, they're pretty innovative, very jazz oriented, pretty inventive. From a human viewpoint, they kind of seem like they've turned into kind of shitheads, but they got Miko Aspa on vocals, and that guy is a notorious shitbag. Sorry, true. And the band itself, they align themselves with him, and I've seen some stuff they've said in the older interviews that pretty NS leaning. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get excited about a band that's that inventive that it really goes in that direction, because it's not productive. I don't know what you think, Alan.
Yeah, this is a band. I'm going to skip all the controversy with Aspa and that kind of stuff. I'm obviously not into those ideologies or stuff whatsoever. I'm never sure with a band like that too how much they're kind of flirting with it to generate a little controversy and get the Twitter chat, hyping them up to the top of the Twitter.
Even bad press is good press.
Exactly. I don't know if they're hardcore, burning swastikas into their forehead, or if they're just like, ooh, if we kind of imply it a little bit, that'll get the hype machine going, both positive and negative, and it will just make everyone pay attention to us. I have no idea. And so, in terms of music, I'm just going to stick to that. The first time I heard Deathspell Omega, I thought it was the worst fucking thing I'd ever heard. I very specifically remember posting on like one of the old Lapland boards or something. It was the album Ig Ignum, blah, 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 blah. I remember posting like, this doesn't even sound like fucking music to me. I could not stand it. For some reason, I did give the band another chance later on with the album that came before that, the one that kind of started breaking them big. It's got the weird, creepy looking angel baby thing on the cover.
Yeah.
And that one clicked. And it was just like, oh, okay, this may be a case where I heard the wrong album first. And so I got more interested in them. Like you said, interesting songwriters, inventive,
talented.
different.
Yeah.
There's talent there. It's interesting stuff. It's not something I want to sit and have to. It's the kind of thing you have to sit and pay attention to get much out of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I'm just not in the mood for that. I want something I can put on while I'm working or in the background or something. They're very good at that. I mean, they really sort of helped, steer black metal in a bit of a direction, at that time. They've got some good releases. I don't mind. After a few releases, I did, I think it was Protalicus. I'm sorry, I'm butchering their times. I haven't listened to any DSO in several years. I kind of just, didn't. It's not that I didn't like them. I just stopped paying attention to what they were doing. I got I wasn't listening to black metal as much for a couple of years, and sort of hopped off the DSO train. So the other thing that besides sort of the NS, how are they into that? They also, of course, made a big deal out of taking all these sort of religious Catholic ceremonies and stuff and inverting them, and turning the lyrics inside out and upside down and backwards and stuff. And they got a reputation there about being this kind of high-minded anti-Christian black metal. That it wasn't the "Oh Satan, here's my pitchfork and my torch, 666 forever." That they were the intellectual version of Satanism and stuff. And that was another one I couldn't quite ever suss out. It was like, how much of this for them is really a serious personal ideology, and how much of it is, again, is it a band just recognizing that if we want to get some attention, press the anti-religion button, because that will always get some attention for you in terms of people that will be like, "Oh, you don't like Christianity? Okay, I want to listen to you, and I'll probably like you." And you'll get hype on the other end of the train, being like, "Oh my God, you're the next version of Satan incarnated. Nobody should listen to this." It gets them attention from both ends of the spectrum, and it just buoys them up. I don't know where they fall in that spectrum. I don't know if they were just like, "Hey, this is a great way to get ourselves attention," or if it was actually a really big personal deal. They delivered it well regardless, and it worked for them regardless. But kind of like you said earlier, at this point in my life, whether they're doing it in the schlocky, cheesy, kill God way, or if they're doing it in the, let's take, the 16th century publications of the archdiocese and, pervert their meaning somehow, I don't really fucking care anymore.
Basically, it's just, knuckle dragging Satanism to Satanism in a button-up shirt. Who cares?
See, that's why I like you, Marty. What it was taking me 5 minutes to say, you said like in 14 words, and you did it better than I did.
This anti-Christian is wearing a sweater and a turtleneck combo.
Yeah.
Whereas this one is wearing a Venom shirt. I don't
know. So I like some of the DSO stuff. I still have some of some Deathspell Omega CDs on the wall back there. But it's not something I take out and play very often.
It's not world rocking music. I mean, it's cool. It's interesting. It's got a place. It's some cool riffs here and there, but I never feel compelled to listen to them.
Not a lot. But I mean, they definitely had a big impact on black metal. There's a ton of bands that steered in that direction. And in a sense, even I thought Mayhem, like around Ordo Ad Chaos, in a way, there are elements on that album that remind me of stuff that Deathspell was doing before them. That it was almost like Mayhem was, oh, well, we can do that with black. We can do that too. It was kind of funny to hear other even bigger name bands sort of glom on to what DSO was doing and incorporating it. So that's probably a lot more than people wanted me to say about this.
Thank you, Michael, for your question. We've got Evan Williams asking, what's your live rig for Glorious Dead, guitar, pedals, amps? I would say go to the Glorious Dead YouTube page and subscribe to that, because we have been doing a lot of discussing about starting to do playthroughs and maybe start doing like candid views of our rigs and gear and guitars. And we're a Northern Michigan band. We're not touring. We're all old bastards with kids and grandkids. And we're not going to be on the road with Suffocation or, whoever's on tour. So we're going to play some shows here and there, but we're going to start trying to do more of a video presence. So go to the Glorious Dead YouTube page, click subscribe, and I'm sure through my socials, I'll announce when things are. But yeah, I'll save that for that video, Evan, but thank you for asking. There's a bunch of other questions here, I think. Any thoughts on Sentence? We'll make this quick. We've talked about Sentenced a lot. The Metal Podcast, any thoughts on Sentenced? Any era, really? I will say, I like the early death metal stuff, but their first 4 albums are all completely different from each other. My favorite era is the Amok era. I love that shit. The goth rocks / metal / Fields of the Nephilim conglomeration. Super catchy. Love it. But I do love the first album. I love North from Here. All that stuff. What do you
Yeah.
thought? What are your thoughts?
First album, haven't heard it in forever. I remember being good, but I never circled back around to it much. North from Here is just fucking vicious. Nothing really sounds like that album. I love it to death.
Yep.
Amok is a crazy good album, very ferocious, very angry. It sounds nothing like North from Here, and they still
Oh,
nail it with a completely different style. Bleed is that band descending into boring, sort of gothy, downer. I'm looking at my shoes and feeling sad rock. There's still a couple of good songs on it. The song Bleed in particular. Oh, I'm sorry. The album I think is called Down, which I thought was the perfect name because the album's just a downer. But I love the song Bleed on it. It's the only song that still feels angry on that album. The rest of them, they kind of feel like they were going in the Catatonia direction of, oh, hey, we'll probably sell more records if we just sound sad and play easier to digest music. That's probably overly harsh, but I have no real use for Sentenced after Amok. They obviously, of course, the lineup change happened, and as far as I'm concerned, that band ended with that lineup change.
Yeah, Tonelli Jarva. I think Tonelli Jarva was the heart of that band. Really.
Yes. Yeah. I remember very much a review coming out with Down. I don't know who wrote it or what zine it was in, but the review boiled down to this band had to bring in 2 new members to replace one when Jarva left, and it still didn't fucking work.
Yeah. Chewing Through It asks, thoughts on Unto Others, Idle Hands. I have not heard either band.
Same here. Sorry, Chewing. I don't know those.
Let's see here. Embarrassment.
Wendy says she just got Amok in the mail. Awesome, Wendy. Hope you enjoy it.
Good album. Maybe we're about done here. Let's see.
CD Cult. Yeah, you're welcome. Glad you're checking out Cemetery. That's a really cool band. Oh, Nebulous Prowler's got a good one down here. If Planet Eaters is any indication, then the new Voivod will be epic indeed. Thoughts? I just heard it today for the first time, or last night for the first time.
I also see that Jurgen said, is it going to be better than Halloween? I don't know if it's going to be better. It's going to be great. It's going to be Voivod. All their shit's really good. I have no doubts that the new Voivod's it's going to be great.
I'm the wrong person to ask about Voivod. I don't know them as well as I should. I've worked on that this year. I've gotten better with their discography, but I can't comment.
What are your holes? What ones are you missing?
A lot. I familiarized myself with the first 4 or 5 at this point, maybe 6. Let's see. Killing Tech and the Dimension are the 2 I know best. What comes after Hate Cross?
Nothing Face.
Yes, I've tried to listen to that album a couple of times, and nope, can't do that. And then after that, Angel Rat, I've played a little bit of, not enough to get a full opinion of. But yeah, Nothing Face. I've tried that one a couple of times, and that's been a hard pass so far. Sorry, folks. After that, I've heard a few songs off the more recent albums, but not enough to know anything about them. I cannot talk intelligently about anything after that. I can't even say anything intelligent about Nothing Face. I can just say I did not like it.
David Russell asks, how do you guys feel about the new Cannibal Corpse Violence Unimagined? For me, it's the same old stuff for them. It's good. It's talented. I've listened to a few songs. I thought they were good. Am I running out and buying it? I'm not. I think the cover art's really dumb. If it turns up used in front of me cheap, I'll buy it because I've always appreciated what they do. But yeah, I mean, I could care less, really, to be honest. Oh, I will say I've got more fire on the that new Corpse Grinder song. Have you all heard that? That is basically a Jamie Jasta song. At what point did Jamie Jasta become the guy that's writing all of these solo albums for the Stars? He's done 2 D. Snyder albums now, and now he's done a Corpse Grinder. Him and another guy wrote all the stuff on the Corpse Grinder album. George just shows up and sings over it. For me, that song that they released sounded like, if you like Cannibal Corpse, you will like this, but it's not as technical or serious as Cannibal Corpse is. It just seems like a guy's idea of what death metal is, but doesn't have the chops to pull off writing what Cannibal Corpse does. So it's like, I don't know, man. That Corpse Grinder song, it just, and then of course George, there was no dynamics on it. He's doing what George does, but he's lost his dynamics over the years. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's where I stand on that one George Corpse Grinder solo project. Basically, Jamie Jasta wrote all that stuff. Come on, man. Anyway, any thoughts on any of that shit, Alan?
Cannibal Corpse is not my band.
Yeah.
They're just not for me. Sorry. All the other bands from that circuit, Obituary, Morbid Angel, I had lots of stuff there I can dig. I just never got into Cannibal Corpse for reasons.
Right. Well, I guess that's it. We kind of went through all the questions, I believe. I just want to say thank you to Alan for putting up with this for all these weeks and the planning and all the thumbnails. Everybody, Alan does all the thumbnails for the shows, and they've all been fun. Rick Contreras from The Dreadful Minutes has done our logo, which is cool. I'm going to eventually get some shirts. I should maybe look into doing that. There'll be a shirt announcement soon. If anybody wants a Heavy Metallurgy t-shirt, we will be presenting the shirt artwork here soon. But really, thanks to all of you. I mean, it's been growing a little bit every week. I'm a little slow at responding to comments, so I try to get to them all, but sometimes I don't. Just the way it goes. And yeah, thank you so much. We've been growing slowly, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yep. Let's be honest, 2021 has been a hard year for a lot of people for a lot of reasons.
Sure.
Getting this weekly stream up and running with you, Marty, it has been a real highlight for the year, and that's not just cheesy sentiment. It's like it's been the fun thing that every week, no matter how shitty work is or how crazy the kids acting or anything, or how tall the grass has gotten because I still haven't mowed it, there's that fun thing that at the end of the week that we can sit down for a few hours with a cool guest almost all the time, or
if not, we don't need them. I mean,
if it's just you and I, that's okay. But I mean, we've had so many great guests come on and talk and then have a lot of fun and learn about a lot of cool albums and bands I've never heard of, and get to chat and interact with folks too. There's a lot of folks who show up almost every week and post stuff.
And
they comment, they laugh, they troll us, and it's been really fun. It's one of the highlights of the year is getting to do these streams every week with you. So thank you very much for having me along for the ride. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you folks have really, coming in the chats. I know there's a lot of people that watch and don't comment in the chats. That's fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But if you're a casual looker and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get this beefed up so more people.
If Marty gets to 5,000 subscribers by the end of next year, he gets a new car. No, I'm totally making that up.
Yeah. We're less than 100 away from 3,000. So if you're just a casual viewer, hit subscribe. It'd be cool to hit 3,000. When we do, we'll do a giveaway.
We could do that.
Probably some test pressings or something. And yes,
Indeed.
Jurgen, get ready, my friend. We need to pencil you in for a date. So save your liver. Save your liver for that event.
Yes,
but we're getting a lot more guests. We're going to probably be branching out, trying to get more band people in, doing who knows what. But King Folly will be returning. He wants to get back on here. We're going to be doing the Maiden thing soon. And tomorrow night, this is a non-heavy metallurgy stream, but the old pandemic crew, all the YouTubers that we were getting together with during the pandemic on this channel and others, we've been trying for months to get everybody's schedules aligned so we could all get together on a stream. And it looks like tomorrow night at 9:00 that is happening on this channel. So a lot of us old YouTubers will be on, and maybe some other guests. We'll see how it all pans out. But also, I know Jeff is also streaming tomorrow night as well. So yeah, don't if we're on just bullshitting and the Sadder Slay crew is on there doing their thing, and go for it there too. And wherever you want to go, we're going to be here for you guys to entertain you and bring you into the new year with drunkenness and probably some stupid stuff. So.
Yeah, Jeff's crew always has good topics, and if anyone has missed some of Jeff's videos for his own channel. They don't always, have the highest number of views, but he does really, really deep dives into
Yep.
bands that he knows inside and out. They're even bands I don't know much about, or some bands I don't even like. I'll still listen to a good chunk, to hours of those because he knows them so well. It's really interesting to hear him pick apart bands like Opeth and
that's coming up. I think they're getting ready to do that here soon.
yeah, they're working on an Opeth one, but he's done really good ones on several
Porcupine
bands.
Tree, Skinny Puppy, Frontline Assembly. Yep.
Yeah. Porcupine Tree is a band I've heard exactly one album by ever, and that was still in a really, really neat show to listen to. So props to Jeff for that. And Marty, I do have to ask, if you're saying you've got the old band back together, does that mean somebody has found Jason Alt? Or Jason?
He has been exhumed from the grave. No, he's not. He's not dead. Yeah, he's very much. He's just protesting YouTube. Yeah, I always enjoyed his channel, though he talks about stuff I'm not into all the time. He, and they had a baby, and a lot of his wife's workspace is now in his record room where he shot videos. So it just got hard for him to do videos, and I think he was frustrated with it because he wasn't, a lot of people subscribing and stuff. I don't know if the hardcore scene really cares as much about the YouTube stuff as the metal scene does. That could be a generalization, but you don't see a lot of hardcore. You got Yorpshard. That's another guy y'all should check out. What the hell is his channel name? Yorpshard Vinyl Geek or something? Or no, wait, Yorpshard. He's a new guy. He's really funny. There's so many great YouTubers out there. Definitely take the time and investigate them. Check out Dreadful Minutes. Check out Jurgen's channel. Devin's on here. Maze of Torment. There's so many people. And check out, of course, Alan's Let's Talk Metal, which is always a great informative source. And he does it only the way that Alan can. Oh yeah, Yorpshard the Record Jerk. Thank you, Eric.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Check out Eric's High Defamation TV. He just changed the name. High Defamation TV. Eric shows a lot of killer shit. He's not super frequent with the videos, but his stuff is so good. Yeah, Yorpshard's collection is insane. He's funnier than hell too. Yep.
Jurgen's collection, Jurgen's videos are always awesome. Rick at the Dreadful Minutes is always hilarious, and he's always finding cool bands on Bandcamp that you've yet to hear about, and you hear about them from Rick first. Kellen's channel, Killing for Company. Kellen always does really nice videos. I really like the way he puts his videos together.
Yeah, we'll get him back this year too, for sure.
Yeah, Kellen's a thoughtful guy and has really interesting taste in music. I don't always like the same stuff he does, but again, it's really cool to hear him talk about it and see him splice his videos together.
Explosive Action, Simon down there in Australia, he's doing a great job. His channel is really, really awesome. I really like his take on things, his dry humor, very good.
Yep.
Definitely one of us for sure. And he'll be coming back this year as well. Yeah, I mean, we've got a really good core group of people that have become our guests. Thralls of Metal, another good one. If you want like pretty recent reviews of new metal things, Thralls is good too. I mean, there's a lot of great channels.
There really are.
We've really been lucky and fortunate to have a lot of these guests on as well. And we'll be getting more as we branch out next year. There's a lot of weeks to cover coming up. So get ready, folks, and tell your friends. Let's get some people over here to watch this shit. We really appreciate it.
Indeed. And with that, everybody have a happy new year. You've got about 25 minutes to get yourselves into whatever state you need to be in to put this year to rest and see what the next one's going to look like.
Right. Thank you, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you again soon.
Cheers.